Chapter 361. He called Ma-Yi, and Ma-Yi said that they were in the dormitory. Li Changsheng went directly to Ma-Yi's dormitory. He saw Ma-Yi and Zhang Wenbin sighing. But on the other side, Zhao Chenggan was complaining loudly. Didn't I say that Li Changsheng was a jinx? At that time, the school ordered everyone to attend the school's banquet. I tried to persuade you, but you didn't listen. You insisted that you couldn't let Li Changsheng down. Now it's fine. You did let him down, but was it worth it to be unlucky with him? Zhao Chenggan was talking to himself, but he saw Zhang Wenbin and Ma Yi's strange expressions. As soon as he turned around, he saw the figure standing at the door. He couldn't help but feel embarrassed. He was talking behind someone's back and was caught by someone. Li Changsheng looked at Zhao Chenggan coldly. He didn't like this person. Being stared at by Li Changsheng, Zhao Chenggan was a little embarrassed. But soon, he sneered, "What are you looking at? I'm telling the truth. Why can't I tell the truth? It's all your fault. What kind of party are you holding outside? Now you've surpassed Shindonghai's limelight. But now you've been expelled. Ma-Yi and the others have been given demerits. How many people do you think you've implicated? It's just Shindonghai. I'll make him take back his decision and come over to apologize to Ma-Yi and everyone," Li Changsheng said. Hee. Zhao Chenggan shook his head. You must be dreaming. Li Changsheng didn't bother with him anymore. Instead, he looked at Ma-Yi and Zhang Wenbin. Don't worry, this branch will be revoked. After saying that, he turned around and left without entering the dormitory. Ma-Yi and Zhang Wenbin both sighed. They knew that Li Changsheng's background was extraordinary, but Shindonghai's background wasn't ordinary either. So, they didn't have much hope. After leaving Ma-Yi's dormitory and returning to their own dormitory, Jiang Tao and the others also heard about the school's decision. When they saw Li Changsheng coming in, they hurriedly comforted him. Changsheng, you don't have to be too sad. With your family background, it doesn't matter if you don't go to college. Yeah, this Shindonghai is too much. Too much. But the county magistrate is not as good as the one in charge. Who asked him to be the principal of the school? Yang Fan sighed and said, they knew that Li Changsheng was shockingly powerful, but a place like the school was not a place where powerful people could interfere. What's more, Shindonghai had already announced on many occasions that his background was 10,000 times stronger than Li Changsheng's. Although he didn't say who his backer was, everyone thought that he had figured out Li Changsheng's background, which was why he made such a statement. Don't worry, I will take care of this matter. Li Changsheng smiled and told them not to worry. He directly called Qiyu. Since Li Changsheng wanted to use the laws of the ordinary world to resolve this matter, he would definitely have to use the powers of Qiyu and the others. Shindonghai had angered Li Changsheng. Li Changsheng would make him feel what despair was. Qiyu, investigate the background of Shindonghai, the principal of Qingzhou University. Li Changsheng directly ordered Qiyu. If he wanted to deal with Shindonghai, he had to uproot him. Yes, sir. On the other end of the phone, Qiyu sounded a little excited. Having been in the north for many years, Qiyu had been idle for too long. Now that he received Li Changsheng's order, the long-lost passion appeared in his heart. Back then, he followed Li Changsheng around, which was why he had the glory and wealth he had today. And now, his rusty sword was finally going to be unsheathed. At the same time, in the office of the principal, Shindonghai called Vice Principal Yang in. Vice Principal Yang stood in front of Shindonghai, bowing and groveling like a lackey. Post an announcement for me. The combat team is disbanded. They don't need to participate in the upcoming National University Combat Competition. Wu Xiaowan and Su Jing are also dismissed. This Vice Principal Yang looked hesitant. Old Shun, I'm afraid that this will be criticized. Shindonghai glared at Vice Principal Yang. Suddenly, Vice Principal Yang was so scared that he wiped the cold sweat on his head. So what? I'm the principal of this university. That Li Changsheng dares to provoke me. I'll let him know the fate of all those who dare to go against me. Although he has the backing of the Chu clan in Qing province, no matter how much power the Chu clan has, it is only in this city. If you want to touch my Qing clan, a mere Li Changsheng is not qualified. Qiyu is very efficient. The information about the Shun family was sent to Li Changsheng in less than half an hour. After reading the information from beginning to end, he found out that Shun Donghai actually had a huge business family behind him. The reason why Shun Donghai could become the principal of Qingzhou University was all because of his family's power. The Shun family was a family that was engaged in the real estate industry. Its influence in the southwest region was not weaker than that of the Shun family in Qingzhou. It was no wonder that Shun Donghai dared to fight against Chen Ligua, who had the Shun family as his backer. It was also no wonder that the other party was so unscrupulous. After reading the information, Li Changsheng had a plan in mind. "Sir, do you want me to use my power to destroy the Shun family?" said Qi Yu with eagerness. "No need. I'm going to do it myself this time. Book me a ticket to Ning City right away. I'm going now." Once Li Changsheng decided to do something, he would not drag his feet. "Okay." On the other end of the phone, Qi Yu immediately nodded in agreement. "I'll send someone to assist you, sir." "It's just a Shun family. You don't need to do it yourself," said Qi Yu again. Shun Donghai has the Wang family in Beijing as his backer, so dealing with the Shun family is not the main thing. The most important thing is to prevent the Wang family from interfering. "I'll leave the Wang family to you." Qi Yu immediately became spirited after hearing Li Changsheng's words. "Okay, sir. You can rest assured. Although the Wang family is snobbish and I can't bring them down for the time being, it's not a problem for me to block the Wang family for you." "Okay." Li Changsheng hung up the phone. He was very clear about Qi Yu's ability to do things. Since he said that he could block the Wang family, then he would definitely be able to do it. 5 minutes later, the phone received a message from the airline that the ticket was successfully booked. Li Changsheng directly set off for the airport. By the time Li Changsheng rushed to the airport, it was already afternoon. So after checking in, he sat on the seat and waited in boredom. There were still 2 hours before the plane would take off. By the time he arrived in Ning City, it should be dark. It was winter at this time. Even sitting in the airport, the temperature was a bit cold. However, this didn't have much effect on Li Changsheng. He was still wearing a half-sleeve shirt, sitting there and playing with his phone in boredom. From time to time, people around him would cast strange looks. After all, it was such a cold day, and people were already wearing down jackets. A few girls were quietly pointing at Li Changsheng and whispering among themselves. It was said that girls who love to be beautiful are not afraid of the cold in winter, but a boy wearing so little in winter is really rare. Finally, it was time to board the plane. Qi Yu booked a business class seat for Li Changsheng. When he sat down in his seat, he saw a beautiful girl wearing a down jacket next to him. Because the temperature in the cabin was relatively high, she unzipped her down jacket after putting her luggage down. Inside was a white tight long-sleeve shirt. When she stood up and stretched her body, it just happened to expose her charming and exquisite curves, attracting the attention of the people around her. Even Li Changsheng couldn't help but take a few more glances at her body. The girl was very beautiful. She was also aware of the effect caused by her figure, but she didn't care at all. However, when she sat down, many people retracted their gazes guiltily. Li Changsheng's expression didn't change. The girl's starry eyes and Li Changsheng's gaze met in the air. The girl suddenly smiled. Li Changsheng's face was stunned. However, since the girl was so polite, he couldn't be too stingy. So, he returned a smile. At this time, a man's complaining voice came from the seat behind Li Changsheng. "Seriously, we can't even book a seat together. I can only look at you from a distance across the aisle." Li Changsheng then realized that the girl was smiling at the man behind him. He couldn't help but feel a little embarrassed. He thought too much. Chapter 362. The beautiful girl rolled her eyes at the other party. "Yang Ning, don't be so mushy. I asked you to accompany me to Ningxing to discuss business with me. I didn't ask you to take the opportunity to flirt with me." Hearing the woman's words, the man named Yang Ning looked indifferent. At this time, seeing Li Changxing next to him, the man suddenly laughed and said, "I say, buddy, I saw that you seemed to be smiling with our beauty Yutong just now. Aren't you being a bit presumptuous?" Li Changxing didn't expect that his action just now was seen by the other party. Just as he was about to speak, he heard the woman curl her lips. "He is as presumptuous as you." At least you are handsome." With that, she looked up and down at Li Changsheng. Seeing this outfit, she couldn't help but curl her lips and muttered, "What kind of taste is this?" Li Changsheng didn't expect to be despised like this, but he didn't care. He smiled and closed his eyes to rest. The man and the woman next to him kept talking. Li Changsheng was a little annoyed by the noise. However, this was a public place after all, so he couldn't say anything. Finally, the two people's mouths were dry, and they stopped chatting, letting Li Changsheng have some peace and quiet. After a while, the woman was probably a little sleepy and fell asleep under the blanket. The man looked around in boredom. Seeing Li Changsheng playing with his mobile phone, he couldn't help but say, "Brother, you must be on a business trip, right? Otherwise, this is business class. How can you afford to sit in it?" With that said, he glanced at Li Changsheng's clothes without leaving a trace. Li Changsheng didn't expect the other party to be so direct. He smiled and didn't answer. Half an hour later, the plane finally began to land. The woman also woke up from her sleep. She stood up and took down her suitcase from above. She looked at the handsome man and said, "Yang Ning, help me carry my luggage. Do you have any gentlemanly demeanor?" The man named Yang Ning pointed to the bigger suitcase in his hand and said, "My beauty Yutong, do you think I can help you?" As he spoke, he couldn't help but look at Li Changsheng. He took out a few red notes from his pocket and said, "Brother, you're on a business trip to Ning City. You can't earn much in a day, right? I'll give you a chance to earn some extra money. How about 1,000 yuan to help my goddess carry her luggage? That box is not heavy." As he spoke, he deliberately patted the 1,000 yuan on his hand, making a clapping sound. It was no wonder that the man thought of Li Changsheng as someone who was on a business trip with the company's money. Everyone in the business class cabin was wearing custom-made clothes and a watch worth more than 100,000 yuan. It was fine that Li Changsheng's clothes were ordinary. There was not a single luxury item on him, and his temperament was not good. "Yang Ning, you're really something." The girl smiled and pushed the suitcase to Li Changsheng. "Thank you for your help." Although the girl was young, she was born in the upper-class circle. From a young age, she understood that money could make the world go round. In her opinion, Li Changsheng would not refuse, and there was no reason for him to refuse. After all, the suitcase was not heavy. 1,000 yuan was just a piece of cake. However, Li Changsheng's next move made her feel a little stunned. She saw Li Changsheng push the suitcase she pushed to the other side. "It's not impossible for me to help carry the suitcase, but you want to hire me as a coolie for 1,000 yuan? You think too much." "What?" The girl and the man widened their eyes. 1,000 is not enough. How about I give you 3,000 yuan? The man felt that Li Changsheng was asking for too much. However, he was not short of money. Unexpectedly, Li Changsheng still shook his head. 30,000 yuan. The man was completely ruthless. Even many people in the surroundings cast curious gazes over. 30,000 yuan just to carry the suitcase. Even they were a little tempted. Li Changsheng really didn't look like a rich man. Yang Ning stared at Li Changsheng with a complacent look on his face. He didn't believe that this guy dressed like a country bumpkin could withstand such a temptation. However, Li Changsheng still shook his head and spat out two words faintly. "Not enough. 300 million yuan is not enough." "What did you say?" The man couldn't help laughing. The girl also shook her head. She only felt that this plainly dressed guy had such a strong self-esteem. She reached out and pulled the suitcase back. At the same time, she looked at Li Changsheng and chuckled. "You are quite interesting, but you really missed a chance to make a fortune." He said he would give you 30,000 yuan. If you agree, he is not joking. He will really give you the money. At this time, the people in front had all left. The girl pulled the suitcase and got off the plane with the man. Before getting off the plane, the man named Yang Ning did not forget to scornfully glare at Li Changsheng. Obviously, he was somewhat dissatisfied with Li Changsheng. Li Changsheng could only shake his head. He was not joking. No one had the right to order him to pull the suitcase. After getting off the plane, they saw a few middle-aged men in suits welcoming them at the arrival gate. One of them, a fat man with half his head bald, walked at the front. He was like a crane in a flock of chickens. Set off by the middle-aged men, he seemed to have a strong aura. He went straight to the girl and said, Miss Yutong, welcome to Peace City." At the same time, he looked at the man beside him and said, "Young Master Yongning, this is Peace City. Your name also has a Ning in it. This means that this is your blessed land. Who knows, your wish might come true." Yongning naturally knew what the middle-aged man was talking about. He looked at Wang Yutong beside him with a burning gaze. The dignified young master of the Yang family came all the way to Peace City. Even a blind person could see his intentions. The scene here made the surrounding people envious. At a glance, they knew that the identity of this man and woman was not ordinary. Otherwise, why would so many people with strong auras come to welcome them at the same time? At this time, Li Changxing also happened to walk over. Yang Ning handed the suitcase to one of the middle-aged men. After seeing Li Changxing, he could not help but show some pride on his face. Then, he shouted at Li Changxing, "Kid, did you see that? This is the difference. Although you refused to help me carry the suitcase for the sake of your pride. So what? No matter how much pride you have, you still have to take a taxi when you go out. As soon as I go out, there are people rushing to carry the suitcase for me. There are also so many people coming to welcome me." After saying that, he looked at Li Changxing proudly. At this time, Wang Yutong rolled her eyes at Yang Ning and said, "Yang Ning, I find that you are really narrow-minded. Why are you so calculative with an ordinary company employee? You just have nothing better to do." Hearing Wang Yutong's words, Yang Ning was not angry. He just smiled slightly. The middle-aged men who came to welcome them all looked at Li Changxing in confusion and thought, how did this kid offend these two great gods? Li Changxing heard the conversation between the two before and knew that the identity of these two people was not ordinary. Seeing so many people welcoming the two of them confirmed his idea. However, this did not have any impact on his state of mind. It was like a group of children showing off their toys in front of an adult. In Li Changxing's view, this kind of showing off was meaningless. On the contrary, it was ridiculous. Li Changxing did not pay attention to Yang Ning. Instead, he walked past them without looking sideways. At this time, suddenly, a big man wearing sunglasses stepped out and reached out to block Li Changxing's way under the signal of the bald middle-aged man. Li Changxing stopped, and there was a bit of confusion in his eyes. The bald middle-aged man did not pay attention to Li Changxing at all. Instead, he looked at Wang Yutong next to him. "Miss Wang, did this person disrespect you on the plane? Do you need me to teach him a lesson?" Chapter 363. The other party was very confident when he spoke. He was also a well-known figure in Ning City. Wang Yutong and Yang Ning did not expect this bald middle-aged man to be so overbearing. However, they reacted quickly, and Wang Yutong shook her head. Only then did the bodyguard in sunglasses retract his arm and make way for them. Yang Ning cast a playful look at Li Changxing. His meaning was obvious. "See? I don't want to be calculative with you. Otherwise, you won't even be able to leave the airport today." Li Changxing, on the other hand, only gave the bald middle-aged man a meaningful glance. When the other party's bodyguard stood out, he was actually prepared to teach him a lesson. However, when he saw him stepping aside, he was too lazy to do so. "Yo, look at this guy. He seems a little unconvinced." Yang Ning was not afraid of blowing things up. However, the bald middle-aged man just snorted in disdain. He did not care about the hostility of small fries. At this moment, Li Changxing had already walked out of the airport. As soon as he appeared, he saw a handsome young man in a suit coming up to him with a smile. "Mr. Li, we meet again." This young man was none other than Qi Xian, the son of the sickly tiger Qiyu. Li Changxing didn't expect that when Qiyu said he would send someone to assist Li Changxing, he actually sent his own son. Qi Xian's face was filled with respect. Behind him was a middle-aged man in a suit and gold-rimmed glasses. The moment he saw Li Changxing, a trace of surprise flashed in his eyes. Then, it was quickly replaced by a smile. Behind a middle-aged man were two neat rows of bodyguards. There were a total of 8 people, all of whom were above 8 meters tall. They followed closely behind him with an intimidating aura. The middle-aged man also hurried up with a friendly and respectful smile on his face. "This is the person in charge of our family in Ning City, President Zhao. Hello, President Zhao. Li Changsheng smiled faintly. Zhao Quan's face immediately revealed a flattered expression. Mr. Li, you can call me Zhao Quan or Xiao Zhao. You calling me President Zhao is too much for me. This Zhao Quan was also a powerful figure in Ning City, but no matter how powerful he was in Ning City, he was still a dog of the Qi clan. Qi Xian was his master. How could he dare to show any disrespect to someone whom even his master had to treat with respect? Does President Zhao always bring so many bodyguards with him when he goes out? Isn't this scale a little exaggerated? Li Changsheng looked at the 8 black-clothed men with powerful auras behind him and joked. The 8 bodyguards were too eye-catching, causing all eyes to fall on them. Li Changsheng, who had always kept a low profile, was not used to this. He's not just a bodyguard. He's mainly a driver. Zhao Quan smiled. Qi Xian smiled and said, everything about President Zhao is good, but he likes to talk about grandeur too much. Isn't it to welcome you, Mr. Li? He made such a big lineup. As he spoke, he pointed into the distance. Only then did Li Changsheng see a row of luxurious Rolls-Royces. There were a total of 8 Rolls-Royces lined up in a long line. It was very eye-catching. Li Changsheng couldn't help but shake his head. He liked to keep a low profile, but the other party made it so high profile. The people who walked out of the airport also noticed this scene. Men, women, old, and young were all attracted by the row of Rolls-Royces. This was a big show of extravagance. The few Mercedes-Benz business cars beside the Rolls-Royces seemed to be overshadowed. Isn't that the poor guy on a business trip? Yang Ning looked at Li Changsheng walking toward the Rolls-Royce and couldn't help but swallow a mouthful of saliva. Wang Yutong, who was next to her, was also dumbfounded. At this time, the bald man who asked the bodyguards to stop Li Changsheng's left leg was trembling. It was not because of the row of Rolls-Royces, but because he recognized the person beside Li Changsheng. Zhao Quan, the general manager of the Tiger Group. Why? Is that middle-aged man famous? Wang Yutong looked at the bald, middle-aged man in confusion. The middle-aged man's face showed a bitter expression. He's more than famous. The Tiger Group is a big company in Ning City. They have only been in Ning City's market for a year. A foreign company only took a year to open up Ning City's market. Many companies that tried to deal with them in the beginning either went bankrupt or had to give up Ning City's cake. Their background is very mysterious. Until now, no one knows what their real trump card is. Zhao Quan himself is known for his ruthlessness. He can definitely be ranked in the top 10 big shots in Ning City. I offended his friend just now. What if he wants to take revenge on me? The bald middle-aged man looked terrified. Wang Yutong watched Li Changsheng get into the car and then leave. Thinking of the disdain she had for Li Changsheng, she suddenly felt a burning sensation on her face. It was really a slap in the face. Yang Ning bit her lips and finally said stubbornly, "Isn't it just a big shot in Ning City who came to pick us up? What's so great about it?" In Ning City, no matter how big the power is, can it be compared to the Shen family? Hearing Yang Ning's words, the bald middle-aged man's face lit up. Only then did he remember the relationship between the young man in front of him and the second-in-command of the Shen family. In Ning City, the Shen family was indeed a big shot. Half an hour later, Li Changsheng arrived at a villa in Ning City. This was the residence that Qi Xian prepared for Li Changsheng. "Mr. Li, I've checked all the information about the Shen family. Although the Shen family has the support of the Wang family, it will only take a month to destroy them," Qi Xian said confidently. The power that the sickly tiger Qi Yu had was not as simple as it seemed. As Qi Yu's son, it was not difficult to deal with a small Shen family. It was already very fast to destroy a big family that dominated a region in a month. Unexpectedly, Li Changsheng waved his hand. "No, it's too slow. I want the Shen family to go bankrupt in 3 days." When he said this, Qi Xian and Zhao Quan were surprised. 3 days? How is that possible? Not to mention that the Qi family did not have much influence in Ning City. Even in the northwestern region that was completely controlled by the Qi family, it was difficult to destroy a big family in 3 days. After all, the Shen family still had a strong foundation. Seeing Qi Xian and Zhao Quan's dumbfounded faces, Li Chongqing knew that his idea was indeed shocking. However, if it was really a month, then the combat team's upcoming matches would be delayed. Before the holidays, the combat team still had to head north for the finals of the National University Combat Competition. Therefore, a month was definitely not an option. Other than slowly setting up a plan to destroy the Shun family, is there any other way to destroy them in one blow? Li Chongqing asked directly. There's one, but the success rate is not very high. Zhao Quan hesitated for a moment before answering. The Shun family has been investing in a large-scale real estate project recently. For this, they have invested almost all of their assets. They even borrowed money from many banks and are in huge debt. However, the project is only half completed. They still need to invest in the follow-up. For this, the Shun family has found several companies to finance it. It's one of the largest financing companies, Musan Investment Group. They have promised to invest 100 billion yuan in the Shun family. As long as the Musan Group withdraws their investment, the Shun family will be paralyzed immediately. However, the profits from this real estate project are huge. The Musan Group will reap huge returns in the future. It's almost impossible to make them stop investing. Hearing Zhao Quan's words, Li Chongqing pondered for a moment. In that case, we'll take out more profits for them to earn. As he spoke, he looked at Qi Xian beside him. Qi Xian naturally understood what Li Chongqing meant. If the Shun family can invest in real estate, so can our Qi family. Moreover, we can give more profits to the Musun Group. There's still a chance to rope them in. Draw up a plan immediately. Tomorrow, I'll personally meet the chairman of the Musan Group. After Li Chongqing gave the order, Qi Xian immediately got his men to take action. Zhao Quan, who was beside him, witnessed everything and could not help but secretly click his tongue. Investing in a real estate project required a lot of money. As the representative of the Qi family's power in Ning City, he naturally knew the Qi family's financial situation. In recent years, their main development goal was not in the southwest. However, just because of Li Chongqing's words, they immediately launched a huge project worth hundreds of billions in the southwest. This gave him a clearer understanding of Li Chongqing's position in the hearts of the Qi family. Who exactly was this young man? He seemed to have made the Qi family's father and son agree to all their requests. It was truly terrifying. Chapter 364. The next morning, Li Chongqing read through the investment project book that Qi Xian brought over. There was a special think tank team behind the Qi family. Since they decided to invest in a big project in Ning City, this was the result of the team working overtime all night. Just to deal with the Shun family, they started a super project in Ning City without hesitation. Qi Xian had done the best for Li Chongqing. Zhao Quan, who had always seen the Qi family act swiftly and decisively, was shocked. In the morning, Zhao Quan made a few calls and finally arranged a meeting with the chairman of the Musun Group at noon. After Li Chongqing had a rough understanding of the project, he set off with Zhao Quan. Qi Xian didn't go with them. A lot of preparations were needed to start a project. Although they didn't have to do it personally, they still needed someone to take command. Today, Li Chongqing wore casual clothes and sat in Zhao Quan's Rolls-Royce. Looking at Li Chongqing's outfit, Zhao Quan was a little stunned. After all, they were going to discuss big business. Li Chongqing was dressed too casually. Thinking of Li Chongqing's identity, the dignified young master of the Qi family was like a follower in front of him. A casual sentence from him made the Qi family decide to develop a real estate project in Ning City. Such a person, no matter how casually he dressed, was destined not to be belittled by anyone. The two of them walked for about half an hour and arrived in front of a luxuriously decorated clubhouse. This was one of the most luxurious places in Ning City. The chairman of the Musun Group was called Chen Musheng, and he was also one of Li Chongqing's main targets today. It was said that the other party was stronger than Zhao Quan in Ning City and was a real rich man. The Chen family had made a fortune in the 1980s and stood out in a series of shuffles in the early 1990s. Although they could only stay in a corner and couldn't walk out of Ning City to a wider world, They were the true local tyrant in this small piece of land. The Shin family was able to get their investment because their projects were indeed profitable and had a high rate of return. Another reason was that the Shun family had been operating in Ning City for so many years. Therefore, even if the Qi family was willing to invest hundreds of billions in real estate projects and prepare to give more dividends to the Musun Group, Zhao Quan didn't think there was much hope from the beginning. This involved relationships and was not as simple as business interests. If it was in the past, with the Qi family's influence, they could force the local tyrants to bow their heads. But now, the Shun family was backed by the Wang family. Even if the Wang family didn't have much sincerity, the Wang family's name was enough to make the people of the Musun Group not dare to easily go back on their word. After entering the clubhouse, he knocked on a door and opened it. There were a few middle-aged men sitting on the sofa. One of them wore gold-rimmed glasses and looked to be in his 60s. He was the chairman of the Musun Group, Chun Mushing. Upon seeing Zhao Quan, Chun Mushing immediately beckoned him over. "President Zhao, come and take a seat. It's not easy for a busy person like you to ask me out for a meal." Zhao Quan's influence in Ning City was not as big as the Musun Group. However, Zhao Quan's mysterious and rapid rise made people not dare to underestimate him. Li Changsheng and Zhao Quan came in together, and several gazes swept back and forth on his body. If Li Changsheng was wearing a suit and tie and walked in behind Zhao Quan in a formal manner, everyone could understand that he was Zhao Quan's assistant or follower. However, Li Changsheng was wearing casual clothes and casual decorations. This was a mistake that should never happen to a secretary or an assistant. For a moment, it made several people more curious. "President Zhao, you took the time out of your busy schedule to ask me out. I wonder what's the matter?" "President Zhao, you don't visit a temple without a reason." Chun Mushing lit up a cigar. Zhao Quan walked to Chun Mushing's side and sat down, while Li Changsheng casually found a seat and sat down. Because of Li Changsheng's instructions in advance, Zhao Quan and Chun Mushing began to chat about some things in the north, south, east, and west. Doing business was particular about the ways of the world. A straightforward conversation was either full of confidence or hothead. Chun Mushing was still unsure about Li Changsheng's identity. He glanced at him and joked, "Young people nowadays are amazing. A few days ago, one came to my company. At first, my manager didn't think highly of him because of his young age. Who knew that he would make a report of the return on investment? The results shocked me. The times are changing, and young people are getting more and more amazing." After Chun Mushing finished speaking, a man beside him immediately echoed, "Yes, but President Chun, your son is amazing. He went out to start his own company at such a young age. Who in Ning City doesn't praise your Chun family for having a tiger father and a dog son?" These words were somewhat flattering, but Chun Mushing obviously enjoyed it very much. He also borrowed my name, so everyone is willing to give him some face. "Chief Chun, you're being modest. There's so many powerful families in Ning City and so many dandy young masters. However, the only one who is young and promising is the young master of your Chun family. This is enough to explain the problem." Chun Mushing chuckled. Even if he was a president with a net worth of hundreds of billions, when talking about his son, he would first be a father. For a father, his son was his pride. "You guys, if you continue to praise him like this, my son will soon be proud." Chun Mushing laughed heartily. He was in a good mood. After smoking a cigarette, Zhao Quan and Chun Mushing talked about all sorts of things. When the cigarette was snuffed out, everyone knew that it was time to talk about business. For a moment, everyone stopped talking and looked at Zhao Quan. At their level, time was really money. If they were to talk for such a long time, they would lose a lot of money. Naturally, they knew that no one would really come here to chat for no reason. Today, when Zhao Quan was talking to Chun Mushing, he bluntly said that there was an opportunity to make a fortune. One had to know that Zhao Quan had made a name for himself in Ning City in less than a year. Many people had always been curious about his background. When he heard about making a fortune, Chun Mushing, who was born in a business family, naturally wouldn't let go of this opportunity. He even brought along a few presidents who were on good terms with him to show his connections in Ning City. President Zhao said that he has something to cooperate with me. I wonder what project it is. Chen Mushing was a big shot in the investment industry in Ning City. Anyone who approached him would generally want him to invest. The rest of the people present also pricked up their ears. These days, there were fewer and fewer projects that could make a fortune. They were full of expectations for what Zhao Quan was going to talk about. Zhao Quan knew that it was time to get down to business. He roughly explained that he planned to do a huge real estate project in Ning City and the nearby provinces, investing hundreds of billions. When these words came out, Chen Musheng and the rest widened their eyes. A project worth hundreds of billions is not a small investment. Well, President Zhao, you must have heard that our Mu Sun Group will be the biggest investor for the Shun family's real estate project and the commercial street project. We have already discussed the details. All that's left is to sign the contract. I'm afraid that your project worth hundreds of billions is beyond our ability to do so. Chen Mushing's words were tantamount to rejecting him on the spot. Not to mention that the project's investment was too huge. He couldn't afford that much money. Even if he could, he didn't know Zhao Quan as well as the Shun family. How would he dare to bet casually? Zhao Quan hurriedly took out the proposal and explained some prospects to Chen Musheng and the rest. After reading it, the few people, including Chen Musheng, showed some interest on their faces. We can guarantee that your income will double within 5 years, Zhao Quan said as he closed the proposal. It's indeed a good project, but you're one step too late. We've decided to cooperate with the Shun family. The Shun family's project is almost the same as yours. It's just that the Shun family doesn't give us as high a dividend as yours. However, a businessman's integrity is the most important thing. Chen Mushing smiled. Integrity was one thing. Another thing was that Zhao Quan was far less reliable than the Shun family in everyone's eyes. Facing Chen Mushing's rejection, Zhao Quan showed some frustration on his face. His mouth was dry just now, but he still couldn't move these people. Is this little brother your junior, President Zhao? Chen Musheng found that when Zhao Quan was talking with him, he would look at Li Changsheng with inquiring eyes from time to time, which made him curious. His son founded his own company at a young age and was already very outstanding. However, it wasn't to the point that people like Zhao Quan would ask for his opinion. Zhao Quan originally came with Li Changsheng today, but Li Changsheng was too young. It was obvious that Chen Musheng didn't even believe himself. If Li Changsheng was the leader of this matter, the other party would probably laugh their heads off. Just as he was hesitating about how to introduce Li Changsheng, he saw Li Changsheng stretch and stand up. Zhao Quan's style of conversation was very much in line with the style of a businessman. However, he was being secretive, which made Li Changsheng irritated. He said directly, "My name is Li Changsheng. I was the one who proposed the project that Mr. Zhao is working on this time. The Northwest Qi Group will be investing in it. Since everyone is quite busy, I'll be frank. I invited President Shun here today to ask you to give up your investment in the Shun family's real estate project and invest your money in my project. I can give you double the dividend that the Shun family promised you. How about it?" Chen Musheng and the other 3 middle-aged men were stunned by Li Changsheng's self-introduction. Such a young man was actually the person behind Zhao Quan. Especially Li Changsheng's next words, asking Chen Musheng to give up his investment in Shun family, were very straightforward and bold. Chen Mushing's mouth was slightly open. He hadn't recovered from the shock of Li Changsheng's identity when the other party threw out a bomb. He wanted to make a move on the Shun family. Zhao Quan looked at Chen Musheng and introduced Li Changsheng to them. He was a big boss from Qingzhou and had the unconditional support of the Qi family behind him. He could be considered his immediate superior. The scene fell into silence for a moment. Everyone was shocked to the core. At that time, everyone was still praising Chen Mushing's son for being young and promising and for being able to conquer the world at such a young age. However, in the blink of an eye, an even younger guy appeared and seemed to have amazing strength. He seemed to be on equal footing with the older generation of business heroes like Chen Musheng. However, it was because it was too shocking that it felt unreal. Could this be a swindler that Zhao Quan got? Chapter 365. Although the Shun family is very powerful, they're like grasshoppers after autumn. They won't be able to survive for more than a few days. Their real estate project hasn't started yet and will soon die. Therefore, it is reasonable for everyone to invest their money in this project that we are planning so that we can get the greatest return. Everyone present was a wily old fox. They instantly understood the meaning of Li Changxing's words. Chen Mushing couldn't help but tease. "Mr. Li, is it? According to what you said, the Shun family, which has the support of the Wang family in Beijing, will fall into decline because of your appearance?" The people next to him couldn't help but chuckle. "Mr. Li, you're too confident. Even if the Qi family in the Northwest is involved, the Wang family is behind the Shun family. I don't know what hatred you have with the Shun family, but it's not realistic to want to destroy them. If you can really make the Shun family suffer heavy losses, then it's not impossible for us to invest in your project. But if you want to use us to deal with the Shun family, I'm afraid you'll be disappointed." The scene fell into an awkward silence. Chen Mushing and the others sneered. They failed. Obviously, these people didn't believe that Li Changsheng could fight against the Shun family. Everyone even thought it was funny. A young man, less than 20 years old, was actually here talking to them about how to bring down the Shun family. Was there a mistake? Was he joking? Chen Mushing couldn't help but shake his head. The other party's background was very unusual. Zhao Quan was willing to follow him everywhere. But if he wanted to trick Chen Mushing into joining him based on this, he must be kidding. "President Zhao, Mr. Li, I'm really sorry. I can't agree to today's matter." "Okay." Zhao Quan nodded. This was actually the result he had long guessed. Li Changsheng didn't say anything. The two of them were about to leave. Now, in the eyes of the other party, the two of them were like clowns. Just as they turned around, they heard Chen Mushing's voice. "My Chun family and the Shun family have always had a good relationship. Although you came to me today because you trust me and I shouldn't let you down, I'm afraid I can't keep your secret. After you leave this club, I'll tell the Shun family everything about today's conversation. So, please be prepared to face the Shun family's anger." Zhao Quan's face instantly darkened to the extreme. It was one thing for the other party to refuse to cooperate with them, but he actually told them that he would reveal what happened today to the Shun family. This was too much. Li Changxing's footsteps also stopped, and he slowly turned around. He looked straight at Chen Musheng. "Are you sure you want to do this? Originally, if you rejected our proposal, we could still be friends. But if you do this, you are declaring war on me and the Qi family of the Northwest." Hearing Li Changxing's threatening words, Chen Mushing only laughed. "Northwest Qi family? Hee. If you really have the Qi family in the Northwest as your background, then please get Qi Yu to talk to me in person. Otherwise, you won't be able to scare me. Also, if you think this is a declaration of war, then so be it." Chen Mushing shrugged. The three middle-aged men behind him laughed out loud. Li Changxing's eyes suddenly turned cold. "Chen Mushing, since that's the case, I'll soon let you know how wrong your decision today was." Chen Mushing's face was filled with mockery. He didn't expect this young man to be so bold as to dare to speak such harsh words to him. He imitated Li Changxing's tone and said, "I'm looking forward to your brilliant move." Li Changsheng left the club and sat in the Rolls-Royce, looking back at the luxurious club's entrance. "I didn't expect that not only did I fail to persuade the Mu Sun Group to stop investing in the Shun family, but I also provoked an enemy that is not inferior to the Shun family. What should I do next?" Zhao Quan looked back at Li Changsheng and asked, "Since I can't tempt them with benefits, then I'll use other means. Check if there are any illegal operations in the Mu Sun Group." Li Changxing knew that there were only a few companies that were developed before the 1980s that could withstand the investigation. There was something fishy behind all of them. Since the Mu Sun Group chose to stand on the opposite side of Li Changsheng, then Li Changsheng didn't mind taking drastic measures to deal with them. Zhao Quan was Qi Yu's subordinate, and everyone was well aware of the reason why the Qi family had today's status. So when he heard Li Changxing's words, he immediately understood Li Changxing's meaning. "I'll do it right away." After saying that, he asked the driver to drive while he made several phone calls. Li Changsheng sat in the back seat with his eyes closed. This was the second method he could think of. If it still didn't work, then he could only use the means of immortal cultivators. Shun Donghai had thoroughly angered Li Changsheng, and he must make the Shun family pay the price no matter what. Moreover, he had already spoken harsh words in front of Chun Mushing today. Li Changsheng always kept his word. After returning to the villa, Qi Xian was somewhat disappointed when he learned that the plan had failed. Originally, when Li Changsheng and Zhao Quan went to negotiate with Chun Musheng, he and his team far away in the northwest had already made all the necessary preparations. But they didn't expect that the plan would fail before it even started. Don't worry, your hard work won't be in vain. Li Changsheng patted Qi Xian's shoulder. Sir, you don't have to be depressed. If it really doesn't work, let my father use his connections to make the Shun family completely disappear from Ning City. Qi Xian was also determined. Although the son of tigers and leopards hadn't formed a pattern, he already had the aura of a bull. Qi Xian was Qi Yu's son, and Qi Yu was known as the sickly tiger. Back then, Qi Yu's rise was a bloody path, and Qi Xian wasn't inferior to his father. Originally, the Qi family had been doing serious business all these years, but Li Changsheng needed it, so Qi Xian wouldn't hesitate even if he had to go through the dirty water again. There's no need for that. It's not to that extent yet. Li Changsheng waved his hand. Mr. Li, why don't I take you out for a walk in the afternoon? As for the Shun family and the Mu Sun group, let Zhao Quan investigate. Li Changsheng nodded. There were specializations in the field, and in many aspects, Zhao Quan was more proficient than Li Changsheng. The superiors worked hard, while the subordinates worked hard. Li Changsheng only needed to point out the general direction, and the specific implementation would be done by the subordinates. Those who took care of everything personally usually didn't live long. The most famous example in history was Zhuge Liang. If he could delegate power appropriately and let his subordinates do their jobs, perhaps the one who unified the three kingdoms would be Shu Han. Qi Xian said that he would take Li Changsheng out for a walk. Coincidentally, there was a very famous nightclub in Ning City, and Qi Xian had a few good friends in Ning City. Hence, he made a phone call. Not long after, a few luxury cars drove over. Qi Xian drove a limited edition Rolls-Royce. Even in the capital city, where luxury cars were everywhere, it was definitely worth a lot. And in a small place like Ning City, it was even more dazzling. When a few of them arrived at the bar, it wasn't lively yet. They sat in the corner and chatted about some topics while drinking. Because without Li Changsheng's permission, Qi Xian didn't introduce Li Changsheng to his friends. However, they all knew Qi Xian's identity, so they naturally didn't dare to neglect Li Changsheng. A woman wearing very little took the initiative to strike up a conversation. Her eyes never left Qi Xian from the beginning. However, a young master like Qi Xian had seen all kinds of women. He just couldn't be bothered to look at this kind of woman who was almost a prostitute. He also didn't dare to reject Li Changsheng, so he gave a look to one of his companions. The companion dismissed the woman with a few words. Young Master Mr. Li, I'll find you a few small stars later. The young man who spoke was from a family who owned an entertainment company. He had a good relationship with many stars and was particularly keen on this. Qi Xian couldn't help but look at Li Changsheng, asking for Li Changsheng's opinion. However, Li Changsheng shook his head. You really don't want them? The other party looked a little surprised. This move of his had always been successful. It was the best way to bring men closer to each other. However, he didn't expect that Li Changsheng didn't seem interested at all. Originally, with Li Changsheng's attire, he would only be treated as an ordinary middle school student. However, with Qi Xian by his side, his ordinary attire was shrouded in a mysterious veil. In addition, he didn't seem to be affected by anything, so Qi Xian's friends couldn't figure him out. They didn't know who he was, so they were afraid that they would accidentally offend Li Changsheng. Chapter 366. Just then, a hearty laugh was heard. Isn't this young Master Qi? What a coincidence. It was a handsome man in his 30s. He was dressed formally and immaculately. Young Master Yang, whose family owned an entertainment company, had some influence in Ning City. However, when he saw this handsome man, he immediately tried to curry favor with him. "So it's Mr. Gao." He immediately introduced him to Li Changsheng and Qi Xian. "This is CEO Gao, the owner of this bar. He's a famous figure in Ning City." Hearing young Master Yang's introduction, even Li Changsheng and Qi Xian couldn't help but size him up. He was only 31 or 32 years old. To be able to open such a top-notch nightclub meant that his background was not ordinary. Then, young Master Yang pointed to Li Changsheng and Qi Xian. "This is young Master Qi Xian and Mr. Li Changsheng." "Hello." After hearing their names, Gao Yin's eyes lit up. She went up to shake Li Changsheng and Qi Xian's hands warmly and looked very approachable. When the nightclub manager who was patrolling saw this scene, he was shocked. He paid attention to this table and made the decision to give them a few bottles of free high-end wine. Young Master Yang, who was standing beside him, felt honored. After all, this Mr. Gao was his friend. Giving him such face also made him feel proud in front of Qi Xian and his other friends. There were more people in the bar, but Gao Yin seemed to hit it off with Li Changsheng and Qi Xian. She drank with them until late at night. Everyone drank until they looked drunk. In the end, Gao Yin secretly asked Li Changsheng if he wanted to find a few girls to accompany him at night. She could let Li Changsheng choose any of the top-notch actresses in the bar or give them to Li Changsheng. Li Changsheng wondered if this CEO Gao knew Qi Xian's true identity, so she spared no effort to curry favor with him. He just happened to be riding on Qi Xian's coattails. However, he still shook his head in the end. Seeing that it was about time, they were about to pay the bill and leave. Gao Yin waved her hand and said that it was all free. Young Master Yang persisted for a while, but seeing that the other party was firm, he gave up on the idea of paying the bill. Everyone present came to the conclusion that this CEO Gao was really loyal and worth befriending. Before leaving the bar, Gao Yin asked Li Changsheng again if he really didn't want any girls. Li Changsheng smiled and shook his head. Because everyone's drunk, Gao Yin insisted that her driver send Li Changsheng and Qi Xian home. Originally, he wanted to find a designated driver, but he couldn't resist the other party's enthusiasm, so he could only nod and agree. Gao's driver Gao Yin and Qi Xian sent Li Changsheng and Qi Xian's favor. The driver waited until the two of them entered the house before leaving. The moment the door closed, the drunkenness on Li Changsheng's face disappeared. Qi Xian also seemed to become a different person, his eyes shining. One who is unaccountably solicitous is hiding evil intentions. Go investigate this Gao Yin's background. Li Changsheng sat on the sofa. Qi Xian went over to make tea for Li Changsheng while dialing a number. Soon, there was news. "I've asked Zhao Quan to check it out. Gao Yin is indeed not a good person. He's famous for being ruthless in Ning City. Most importantly, he has another background. He's the son-in-law of Chun Musheng, the chairman of the Musan Group. Looks like tonight is not going to be a peaceful night." Li Changsheng sighed. Qi Xian sneered. "Don't worry, Mr. Li. If we were to engage in an open and above-board business war, the Qi family's influence in Ning City would not be enough. However, if we were to play dirty, even 100 Musan groups would not be enough to drown the Qi family spit." When he said this, Qi Xian exuded the aura of an ambitious and ruthless person, vaguely resembling his father, Qi Yu. At this moment in the bar, after Li Changsheng and the others left, the drunkenness on Gao Yin's face completely disappeared, and a cold light flashed in her eyes. The phone in his hand rang. It was a call from the driver. "Hello, have you figured out where they're staying? Today, find a dozen brothers and go smash that villa for me. Especially that Rolls-Royce. It's a limited edition. F*CK. I can't even bear to buy it. Smash it into smithereens. I've lost so many smiles today. I have to get it back." "Yes." The driver nodded. After hanging up the phone, Gao Yin sneered. He sat on the sofa. Usually, the noisy DJ in the bar was the atmosphere he liked the most. At this moment, he felt vexed for no reason. Father-in-law said that Li Changsheng dared to talk tough to him. Looks like he's nothing much today. That Qi Xian, on the other hand, looks sickly and gives off a gloomy and cold feeling. No wonder he's the son of sick tiger Chi-yu. However, I, Gao-in, have done something big today. I've smashed Chi-yu's son's car, and then I've smashed the villa. I wonder if Chi-yu's son, who said that like father, like son, will be so scared that he'll lose control of his bowels tomorrow. Thinking of this, Gao Yin's mood improved again. Then, he pulled the girl, who was serving him tea, into his arms. She was a little fearful at the side. She was in charge of serving him tea. At 3 o'clock in the morning, the lights in the villa were off. Li Changsheng had already gone to bed. Outside the villa, several shadows appeared sneakily. They split into several directions, holding tools in their hands. Some of them jumped over the wall into the villa, while others rushed straight to the Rolls-Royce parked there. Qi Xian stood on the window on the second floor, looking down at the movement below with the help of the moonlight. The corners of his mouth curled into a cold smile. Just as a shadow raised the fire axe in his hand and was about to smash the Rolls-Royce's window, his raised hand suddenly stopped in midair, and a hard object was pressed against his head. It wasn't just the one who raised the fire axe. The other people around him also raised their hands, their legs trembling. The cold muzzle was aimed at them. Almost without making a sound, these people were driven to a corner of the villa. Then, a bald man appeared and made a hand gesture. These burly men who had sneaked in the middle of the night collapsed one by one in the courtyard of the villa. Their mouths were wrapped with tape, and they whimpered, but it didn't affect the rest of the people in the villa. Blood flowed from their wrists, and they seemed to have no strength left. Not long after, the bald, middle-aged man next to Qi Xian on the second floor appeared silently. He cupped his hands and said, "Young master, everyone's hands are crippled. Even if they are cured in the future, they won't be able to lift heavy things. Well done. Don't disturb Mr. Li's rest." Qi Xian's lips curled into a cold smile. Chi-yu, the sickly tiger of the Northwest, hadn't shown his edge for too many years. So many people thought that the Qi family was done for. Today, whether it was for Li Changsheng or for the Qi family's reputation, Qi Xian would do this. Of course, if it weren't for Li Changsheng's restraint, perhaps it wouldn't only be these 20 to 30 people who sneaked in, but the entire Chun and Shun families would have their tendons broken. Chapter 367. Today, Gao Yin put on a show of hiding a dagger and a smile at the bar, but few people knew that Qi Xian, the son of sick tiger Chi-yu, was the master of hiding a dagger and a smile. Is the trouble solved? A faint voice sounded in Qi Xian's ear. Qi Xian turned around and saw that Li Changsheng had appeared behind him without him noticing. He lit a cigarette and tossed one to Qi Xian. Standing in front of the floor-to-ceiling window and looking at the night sky outside, Li Changsheng didn't take another look at the black-clothed men who were thrown into the corner and constantly struggling. "Yes, sir. I didn't dare to disturb you because I was afraid of disturbing your rest." Qi Xian replied respectfully. After what happened last time, he understood that his father's respect for the young man in front of him was completely reasonable. Even now, when he saw Li Changsheng, he was sincerely in awe. After finishing the cigarette, Li Changsheng put it out and threw it into the trash can next to him. He took out his phone and dialed. The name shown on the phone was Gao Yin. It was the contact number they left with each other when they left the nightclub. He didn't expect to use it so soon. "Hello." A somewhat lazy voice came from the phone. Li Changsheng showed some sarcasm at the corner of his mouth, but his tone was very sincere. "Mr. Gao? Just now, a few bugs ran into the yard of my villa and were caught by my security. I didn't expect the security in Ning City to be so bad. You see, I wanted to report it, but I feel that I'm not familiar with Ning City, and it won't be good if I offend some expert. I wanted to call you. Don't you have a lot of connections in Ning City? How about you help me deal with it?" On the other end of the phone, Gao Yin wasn't sleepy at all. He had been sitting on the sofa at home, waiting for the news. But after waiting for a long time, nothing happened. He didn't expect that Li Changsheng would call him in the end. "Okay, don't worry about it. Let me handle it." Gao Yin patted his chest and promised. "Then I'll have to trouble you, Brother Gao." "Not at all. We hit it off as soon as we met. It's just a small matter." "All right. Do you need your Brother Gao to help you find out who ordered this? He has no respect for the law. Since he dared to touch my brother, he must pay the price. Li Changsheng chuckled and said, "Forget it. I'm new here. It's better to keep a low profile. What if President Gao is also involved in the investigation? Wouldn't that be troublesome?" On the other end of the phone, Gao Yin's heart skipped a beat. They were all old foxes. Since Li Changsheng said such words, it meant that he already knew that it was him who did it. However, since Li Changsheng said these words in a joking tone and did not intend to shed all pretenses of cordiality, he naturally had to continue pretending. "Ha, Brother Li, you really know how to joke. In that case, I'll send someone to bring those people back and then deal with them." After saying that, he hung up the phone. After hanging up, Gao Yin's face was completely gloomy. He did not expect that his performance was so real that the other party actually noticed it and the people he sent fell into the other party's hands. It seems that this Li Changsheng really has some skills. However, he's just a little smart. If something like this happened to me, he would definitely not call the other party. Instead, he would take advantage of the other party's inability to react and make a surprise attack. He called me like this to warn me. It also shows that the other party has a guilty conscience. Thinking of this, Gao Yin could not help but curl his lips. He took out his phone and dialed again. "Hello, Brother Hey, find me a few good swordsmen immediately. Those who dare to use underhanded methods. I want to use them tomorrow to get rid of a person." After hanging up the phone, Gao Yin lit a cigarette. "Reckless boy, you still want to fight with your brother Gao. You really overestimate yourself. Tomorrow, there will be a nameless corpse in the river of Ning City. I don't dare to touch Qi Xian, but do you think I don't dare touch you?" Gao Yin muttered to himself. However, as soon as he finished speaking, there was a loud bang and the door was kicked open. A bald man and a few black shadows rushed in. "Who are you people?" Gao Yin was just about to reach for the pistol hidden in the coffee table, but before he could bend down, a long knife with cold light was placed on his neck. "Aren't you looking for a swordsman who knows how to use a knife? My brothers are good at using knives. I guarantee that they can easily cut your throat and you won't be able to make sound. Do you believe it?" The bald man cracked open his mouth and laughed. The eyes of the others were full of ferocity. "Put this on and come with us." The bald man directly threw a black hood in front of Gao Yin. He did not dare to move and obediently put the black hood on his head. Then he was taken out of the villa. From the beginning to the end, the bodyguards that Gao Yin hired with a lot of money did not react at all. They had already fainted on the ground. The next morning, in the villa, this Gao Yin is Chun Muxing's son-in-law. He started out as a gangster and is involved in many secrets of the Mu Sun Group. He is deeply trusted by Chun Muxing. I checked yesterday. If we want to deal with the Mu Sun Group, we have to open a hole through Gao Yin. Zhao Quan stood in front of Li Changsheng and Qi Xian and reported the results of his investigation. It seems that it was a wise move to arrest Gao Yin yesterday. Li Changsheng smiled and then ordered Zhao Quan, pry open Gao Yin's mouth as soon as possible and ask him about the shady business of the Mu Sun Group. After that, he looked at Qi Xian. "You can continue to let your team plan the project. I have a hunch that the Mu Sun Group will soon kneel down and beg to cooperate with us. However, it will definitely be impossible to double the dividends. It will be good enough to give the Qi family some soup to drink." "Okay." Qi Xian nodded. He believed Li Changxing's words without a doubt. On the contrary, Zhao Quan's face showed some dissatisfaction. In the past few days of contact, he did not find anything special about Li Changsheng. However, Qiyu always expressed that he wanted him to listen to Li Changxing's orders and work for Li Changsheng in the future. He even hinted several times that Li Changsheng would be his new master in the future. This was actually Qiyu's intention. Su Xiaolin gave Li Changsheng the Junka group. As Li Changxing's subordinate, Qiyu had always wanted to show filial piety to Li Changsheng. After taking down the Shun family, Ning City was the gift Qiyu wanted to give to Li Changsheng. Qiyu's person in charge in Ning City was naturally sent to Li Changxing's subordinates. Such a decision made Zhao Quan feel a little uncomfortable. He had no complaints about working for his young master. However, a guy in his 20s who looked harmless was above him and ordered him around just because of Qi Xian's casual words. How could he be willing? Although he was unwilling in his heart, he did not say anything. Instead, he left the villa directly to carry out Li Chongqing's orders. After all, he was just a dog of the chief family. Chapter 368. Sir, Zhao Quan is arrogant and unruly. Back then, my father personally took action to subdue him. Now that he's showing some attitude, do you want me to knock some sense into him? Qi Xian was afraid that Zhao Quan would accidentally make Li Chongqing unhappy. Li Chongqing waved his hand. No need. He's your chief family subordinate. Now that you want him to work for me, it's normal for him to feel uncomfortable. Since he's my subordinate in the future, I'll knock some sense into him. I understand. Qi Xian nodded and began to make calls to arrange the Qi family's team to arrange things in Ning City. Not long after, the phone in the room rang. It's Zhao Quan. Although Gao Yin was arrested, he's very stubborn. Zhao Quan's subordinates can't do anything to him. The Mu Sun group has also reacted and is looking for Gao Yin's whereabouts in the city. Where's Zhao Quan? I'll go and find him. After Li Chongqing finished speaking, he asked Qi Xian to arrange a driver and rush to where Zhao Quan was. Zhao Quan was drinking tea with 3 middle-aged men. When he saw Li Chongqing coming over, he hurriedly got up to greet him. As soon as he saw Li Chongqing, Zhao Quan poured out his grievances. Mr. Li, that Gao Yin was born as a gangster. He's very stubborn. Not only did we not get any information from him after we arrested him, he even asked us for 100 million. Otherwise, he won't let us off. Ning City is the world of the Mu Sun Group's Chen family. Chen Mushing has sent many people to look for Gao Yin's whereabouts. I'm afraid he won't be able to hide for long. Zhao Quan frowned, his face filled with anxiety. Where's Gao Yin locked up? Send one of your men to take me there. I'll see how troublesome it is. Okay. Zhao Quan nodded. He immediately gave a look to the driver next to him. The driver then took Li Chongqing out of the tea house and sat in Zhao Quan's Rolls-Royce, heading out of the suburbs. After Li Chongqing left, Zhao Quan sat down with a cold smile on his face. The middle-aged man next to him said, CEO Zhao, the one in charge of guarding Gao Yin is that rascal Huang Manlu. Apart from you, CEO Zhao, Huang Manlu has looked down on everyone else all these years. If Li Chongqing goes, and he disrespects Li Chongqing, how will we explain it to first young Master Qi? Hearing the other party's words, Zhao Quan sneered coldly. I want him to be disrespectful to Li Chongqing. I want to see what's so great about this Li Chongqing that Qi Xiao would be so respectful to him. If he can't even deal with Huang Manlu, then we don't have to deal with the Shun family and Mu Sun group at all. We can just put on a show. If he really has the ability, we'll work for him again. All right, I understand. The other 3 middle-aged men nodded. Indeed, they had all killed their way out of Ning City to achieve what they had today. Qi Xian was fine. After all, he was Qi Yu's son and had extraordinary ability. However, Li Chongqing, a stranger who suddenly appeared, was nothing. It wasn't that easy to make them lower their heads and be dogs. Sitting in the chauffeur's car, they arrived at the entrance of a courtyard in the suburbs. A few strong men were standing at the entrance. When Li Chongqing got out of the car, his path was blocked instantly. The chauffeur was Zhao Quan's trusted aide. At this moment, he said angrily, "Don't you recognize this license plate? Or do you not recognize me? Mr. Li is CEO, Zhao's distinguished guest. Get out of the way." Indeed, if Li Chongqing had come alone, these people wouldn't give him face and wouldn't let him in. However, the chauffeur had brought Li Chongqing here. As Zhao Quan's subordinates, how could they not recognize this Rolls-Royce? Besides, the chauffeur was Zhao Quan's trusted aide. Unexpectedly, after hearing the chauffeur's words, the strong man blocking the way shook his head. Since you're here, we naturally wouldn't dare to make things difficult for you. However, this is our boss Wang's idea. Huang Manlu? The chauffeur couldn't help but frown when he heard this name. CEO Zhao should have called him in advance. Go in and report that CEO Zhao's people are here. Okay. The strong man nodded and gave a look to his companion next to him. His companion opened the door and walked in. Li Chongqing wasn't in a hurry. He lit a cigarette and leaned against the car door to smoke silently. Time passed by slowly. He had finished smoking the cigarette, but the other party still hadn't come out. Li Changxing's face had become gloomy. The chauffeur hurriedly asked the strong man, "Why hasn't Huang Manlu come out yet? He's made Mr. Li wait here for almost half an hour. Does he still have any respect for CEO Zhao?" The strong man was also a little embarrassed. This chauffeur was Zhao Quan's subordinate. He didn't dare to offend him too much. "I'll urge him again." With that, he also walked in. Another 10 minutes passed in this manner. "Mr. Li." The chauffeur's face was also a little ugly. Even a fool could tell that this was intentional. "Do you want to show me who's boss?" Li Changxing sneered. He stepped forward and kicked the iron door. Crack! The locked iron door was kicked open by Li Changxing. The chauffeur next to him was stunned. He thought to himself, "This Mr. Li looks weak. I didn't expect him to be so strong." However, at the moment when the door was kicked open, a Mitsubishi off-road vehicle rushed out from inside and directly crashed into Li Changxing. Rumble! The ear-piercing roar of the car resounded through the sky. The Mitsubishi off-road vehicle was obviously modified. It rushed out of the gate with a cloud of smoke and dust. It was very fast and had no intention of stopping at all. The chauffeur who came with Li Changxing was already pale with fright. "Mr. Li, get out of the way." The strong men who were in charge of standing guard around were also dumbfounded. Only Li Changxing stood quietly at the gate, looking straight at the rampaging off-road vehicle. 10 meters, 8 meters, 7 meters, 6 meters, the off-road vehicle was very fast. It seemed that it was going to hit Li Changxing directly. However, Li Changxing still stood there quietly. His face was calm, as if he completely ignored the off-road vehicle. Crack! The screeching of the brakes. The Mitsubishi off-road vehicle stopped a fist's distance away from Li Changxing's body. In an instant, as the vehicle's engine was turned off, the surroundings fell into silence. The door opened and a thin young man came out. He raised his eyebrows and looked at Li Changxing with some surprise. He laughed and said, "I'm sorry. I didn't see you just now. You were scared and didn't even know how to dodge." The other party had an evil smile on his face. He was not embarrassed at all. "You did it on purpose." Li Changxing looked at him coldly. "Where's Gao Yin? Take me to him." "Gao Yin is in this yard, but I can't take you in directly. You said that you were sent by President Zhao. How can you prove your identity? If you were from the Shun family or the Mu Sun group, wouldn't you have rescued him?" After the other party finished speaking, he looked at Li Changxing with a faint smile. It was obvious that he deliberately wanted to embarrass Li Changxing. Chapter 369. Do you want me to give Manager Zhao a call? Li Changxing opened his mouth. Unexpectedly, the other party shook his head. "Calling doesn't count unless you go back and ask Manager Zhao to come here. I think you're deliberately looking for trouble, right?" Li Changxing's face turned cold. Hee. The man smiled and lit a cigarette for himself. Moreover, he was looking at the sky at a 45-degree angle. His sloppy appearance seemed to have completely ignored Li Changxing. The surrounding brawny men also showed a mocking look in their eyes. They knew their boss very well. In fact, they had already received Zhao Quan's order to do this. They wanted to cut down Li Changxing's prestige and make this guy, who was trying to climb on their neck, retreat. If Li Changxing went back to ask Zhao Quan, he would be considered to have lost. If he can't even deal with a small minion, how can he be qualified to be Zhao Quan's boss? Everyone had a playful look on their face, but they saw Li Changxing suddenly moved. He took a step forward and kicked Huang Manlu's lower abdomen. Huang Manlu, who was 7 meters tall, looked as if he had been hit by a high-speed train. He let out a blood-curdling scream and flew back 5 or 6 meters before landing on the ground. "You fucking dare to hit me?" After falling to the ground, Huang Manlu endured the pain in his abdomen and climbed up. He reached out his hand and pulled out a dagger from his waist. But before he could rush forward, he heard a bang sound. Li Changxing kicked the tire of the Mitsubishi off-road vehicle. The tire was destroyed by a single kick. This was not the most terrifying thing. The most terrifying thing was that the off-road vehicle, which weighed several tons, was directly moved back more than 2 meters by this kick. The group of brawny men, who were originally standing on both sides of the road, couldn't help but tremble in fear. Their eyes widened. Huang Manlu, who was holding the dagger, was instantly covered in cold sweat. If this kind of terrifying power was used on a person, it could probably directly kick that person to death. If that was the case, that kick had been merciful. Huang Manlu wiped the cold sweat off his forehead, but no matter what, he did not dare to rush forward. The burly men reacted with surprise in their eyes. This was how the world worked. Strength reigned supreme. Whether it was one's combat ability or a huge background, as long as one was strong enough, they would be respected. Slap yourself 50 times, or I'll cripple you like this tire, Li Chongqing said coldly. Kill the chicken to warn the monkey. He had originally intended to knock some sense into Zhao Quan, and this Huang Manlu was a very good opportunity. Presumably, this scene would soon reach Zhao Quan's ears. With Zhao Quan's intelligence, he should know what to do. Hearing Li Chongqing's words, Huang Manlu still had some hesitation on his face. To slap himself in the face in front of so many subordinates, he would lose all face. However, Li Chongqing did not give him much time to think. While he was hesitating, Li Chongqing had already taken a step forward and appeared in front of him in an instant. Then he stepped on his chest and stomped him to the ground. Seems like you refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit? After saying that, without waiting for Huang Manlu to beg for mercy, he lifted his foot and kicked his head. Bang! A dull sound rang out. The surrounding burly men could not help but cover their eyes. The scene of Li Chongqing kicking the tire was still replaying in their minds. That kick would have crushed a person's head. However, Li Chongqing still held back. They saw Huang Manlu spinning on the spot from the kick, and then his head directly hit the wall beside him. After blood flowed out, his head softly drooped down. The burly men carefully opened their eyes, but they did not see the horrifying scene of a head being crushed. However, when they saw Huang Manlu lying there motionless, their faces were filled with fear. Could it be that this usually arrogant boss had been kicked to death by this young man in front of them? Even a driver was so scared that his hands trembled. Today, not only did he have the task of sending Li Chongqing here, but he also had the task of reporting everything he saw to President Zhao. However, this fellow was simply too ferocious. Don't worry, he's not dead. Carry him out for me. After saying that, he chose someone from the crowd and said, You, take me in to see President Gao. Hearing Li Chongqing's words, the other party hurriedly nodded and did not dare to have any objections. This young man was too cruel and could not be provoked at all. Walking into the courtyard, there was a well-decorated two-story building. When he opened the door, he did not see Gao Yin. The man next to him hurriedly pointed to the inner room. Walking inside, there was a basement. Li Chongqing asked the man to open the anti-theft door. The air inside was slightly damp. However, the moment the door was opened, he saw that the basement was very clean. Gao Yin was sitting on the sofa in the basement. In front of him was a coffee table. On the coffee table were rows of beer bottles and a half-eaten roast chicken. President Gao's treatment is not bad. Li Chongqing smiled slightly, revealing a mouth full of white teeth. The man next to him hurriedly explained, The other party is stubborn. Plus, he could be rescued at any time, so no one dares to torture him. Li Chongqing nodded, then pulled a stool and sat down opposite the other party. After Gao Yin saw Li Chongqing, he sneered and crossed his legs. His legs kept shaking. So it's you. I didn't expect you to be so bold. Don't think that you're really powerful just because you have Chiyu backing you. Don't forget that this is Ning City. A strong dragon cannot suppress a local snake. If you lock me up today, you'll pay 100 times the price tomorrow. The other party was locked up here, but he did not panic at all. Instead, he was very arrogant. Without waiting for Li Chongqing to say anything, he threatened Li Chongqing in advance. He was confident, and unscrupulous. This was Li Chongqing's first impression of Gao Yin when he saw Li Chongqing. They were still calling each other brothers in the bar yesterday, but in the blink of an eye, they were at daggers drawn. Li Chongqing couldn't help but sigh at the guy in front of him. His acting skills were really superb. Gao Yin, the son-in-law of the Musan Group's chairman, Chun Mushing. He came from a poor background, but it took him only 5 years to become a member of Ning City's upper class. He is known for his insidious, vicious, and daring. Li Chongqing took out his phone. There was information about Gao Yin on it. It seems that your investigation is very thorough. Since you know me well, I won't make any more introductions. Take out 100 million and let me go, and I'll pretend that nothing happened. Otherwise, I can guarantee that in less than 3 days, the people of the Musan Group will know that you're the one behind this. At that time, you'll have to bear Chun Mushing's anger. Also, don't try to kill me. First of all, I'm not afraid. Second, you can't bear the consequences. After saying that, Gao Yin tore off a drumstick from the table and put it in her mouth to chew. His other hand picked up the wine bottle and drank a few mouthfuls from time to time. He ate very happily. Even the driver standing behind Li Chongqing couldn't help but swallow a mouthful of saliva. It seemed that he was sure that Li Chongqing wouldn't dare to touch him. After he finished eating the chicken leg, he casually threw it. The chicken leg bone just happened to fall on Li Chongqing's foot. Suddenly, the driver's face showed a bit of anger. Gao Yin looked at Li Chongqing with a provocative face. It was obvious that he did it deliberately. Chapter 370. Li Chongqing smiled and did not speak. Instead, he bent down and gently swept the drumstick bones to the side. Then, he took 2 napkins from the table and wiped his fingers. Then, he looked at Gao Yin with a smile. Kid, you don't have to look at me like that. Anyway, you don't dare to touch me. You'd better consider my request. Gao Yin curled his lips. His face was full of ridicule. Is that so? Li Chongqing shook his head. From the beginning to the end, a smile hung on his face. He slowly stood up and then bent down to grab the support leg of the glass coffee table. With a great effort, he lifted the coffee table with one hand and then directly smashed it on Gao Yin's head. Gotcha! The tempered glass shattered. Gao Yin subconsciously raised his arm to block, but his whole body was smashed directly to the ground, constantly twitching. His arm hung limply by his side. It was obvious that his bones had been broken. The loud noise made the driver and the burly man who had just entered the car tremble in fear. His subordinates who were waiting outside also rushed into the room. When they saw the scene in front of them, they were dumbstruck and sucked in a mouthful of cold air. How much strength did he have to be able to lift the coffee table? Moreover, such a heavy coffee table smashed on a person's body. This was too ruthless. Everyone looked at Li Chongqing with fear in their eyes. Previously, it was Huang Manlu. Now it was Gao Yin. It seemed that whoever offended this young man had a miserable end. How about it? Now, can you speak to me with a proper attitude? Li Chongqing grabbed Gao Yin's collar, lifted him from the ground, and threw him on the sofa. Gao Yin's whole face was distorted. His forehead was covered with blood. His arm was twisted at a strange angle. His body was twitching in pain. He looked at Li Chongqing as if he was looking at a devil. Human, you always refuse a toast, only to be forced to drink a forfeit. I originally wanted to reason with you, but you forced me to use my fists. Li Chongqing sat down on the folding stool again, with a playful smile on his face. Don't think too highly of yourself, just because you're Chun Mushing's son-in-law. Don't use your shameless ruffian side to deal with me. It's useless even if I tell you. This is my territory now. I can do whatever I want to you. As he spoke, Li Chongqing signaled his subordinates to clean up the glass shards in front of him. He filled a jug of water from the nearby water dispenser and poured it over Gao Yin's head. Ah! Gao Yin Fa cried out in pain, but at the same time, he became much more clear-headed. His eyes were still filled with fear. Tell me, you've been in charge of the Musan Group all these years. Is there anything shameful about it? Tell me in detail. I know you very well. You don't completely trust your father-in-law. You must have something on him. Tell me, where is it? Li Chongqing finished speaking. Although his face was filled with fear, he still didn't speak. It seemed that you're playing with me. Silence is golden. Don't think that your father-in-law can save you, and don't think that I can't do anything to you. After that, he ordered his subordinates behind him, find a rope and tie him up. Several strong men didn't dare to disobey Li Changxing's order. They went up and tied Gao Ying up. Finding a knife outside, a sharper one. Hearing Li Changxing's words, the driver couldn't help but remind him, "Mr. Li, this Gao Ying can't die." Indeed, before coming here, Zhao Quan had already told the driver that if Gao Ying died, it would definitely be a big deal. "I don't need you to tell me what to do," Li Changxing coldly replied. The driver immediately shrunk his neck. If it was before, he would definitely use Zhao Quan to warn Li Changxing. But now, he didn't dare to do so. This young man was too cruel and ferocious. Soon, the strong man came in with a sharp knife and was about to hand it to Li Changxing. However, Li Changxing waved his hand. "I said, just do it." As he spoke, he pointed to the other two strong men. "Take off this Mr. Gao's pants." "What are you going to do?" Gao Ying, who had been sneering at Li Changxing, finally couldn't help but ask. "Nothing. I heard that you and your beautiful wife are very loving. As Chen Muxing's son-in-law, I just want to know, if I perform a small operation on your lower part, I don't know if you, the son-in-law of the Chen family, will still be valued by your father-in-law." Hearing Li Changxing's words, Gao Yin's face instantly became extremely ugly. He was really frightened. Because of his identity as Chen Muxing's son-in-law, he was able to have his current glory and wealth. But if what Li Changxing said was true, even if he returned to Chen Muxing's side, he was afraid that he would not have his current status. Moreover, if a man lost his lower part, wouldn't he be better off dead? "Good. You're ruthless. I'll tell you." Gao Ying sighed and lowered his head. Even if he was unyielding and loyal to Chen Muxing, he couldn't stand Li Changxing's threat. The Musan Group's method of making a fortune is not honorable. Until now, there are still many shady businesses. I've hidden this information in the Repulse Bay Villa under the floor tiles behind the TV cabinet. That floor is empty. It contains all the information of the Musan Group. In addition, there is a USB flash drive in the armrest of my car, as well as a copy of the information. After that, his whole body seemed to be drained of energy. He closed his eyes and no longer spoke. "Good. I'll immediately send someone to get it. If it's really there, I'll immediately let you go. If you dare to lie, I'll let you have a taste of what it's like to be a palace steward." After that, Li Changxing got up and walked out of the house. He called Zhao Quan and asked him to send someone to get it. When he walked into the courtyard, he saw that Huang Manlu had already woken up. He was leaning against the wall of the courtyard with a cigarette in his mouth. Next to him were several subordinates taking care of him. When they saw Li Changxing come out, the cigarette in their mouths suddenly fell to the ground. Just as they were about to say something, they heard Li Changxing's faint voice. 50 slaps. If you miss one, I'll cripple you." After that, he walked out of the courtyard without looking back. Then, the sound of slaps resounded in the courtyard. Zhao Quan's most arrogant subordinate was scared out of his wits by Li Changxing. In fact, it wasn't just him. Everyone at the scene couldn't help but tremble as long as the three words Li Changxing were mentioned in the years to come. In the tea house, Zhao Quan was talking and laughing with his three companions. After receiving Li Changxing's call, he wanted to say something, but the other side had already hung up the phone. However, the expression on his face had already become stiff. After 5 or 6 minutes of silence, he let out a long sigh and said, "It seems that I underestimated this Mr. Li." At this time, the other three people saw Zhao Quan's abnormality and were puzzled. Not only did he deal with Huang Manlu, but he also got useful information from Gao Ying. This time, not only the Musun Group, but also the Shun family is finished. Chapter 371. Help me arrange a meeting with Chen Muxing. Li Changxing directly called Qi Xian. 20 minutes later, a Rolls-Royce appeared in the suburbs and directly drove Li Changxing to the destination. This time, they came to the same 5-star hotel. Zhao Quan had been waiting at the entrance for a long time. When he saw Li Changxing, he hurriedly showed a respectful expression. After Li Changxing hung up the phone, he quickly learned the ins and outs of the whole incident from the driver. While he was shocked by Li Changxing's strength, he also had a deeper impression of Li Changxing's ruthlessness and decisiveness. Only then did he know that this seemingly ordinary and always smiling young man was the real ruthless person. Not long after Li Changsheng and the other two entered the hotel, Chun Mushing and his companions finally arrived. As soon as he entered the door, Chun Mushing's face turned ugly. His son-in-law's disappearance made him very angry. He sat down opposite Li Changsheng and said with a sullen face, "I don't know why you asked me to come here, but I'm telling you very clearly now that you want me to give up my investment in the Shun family and invest in your project. Don't even think about it. Also, I've already told the Shun family about your plan to deal with the Shun family. So, I advise you to stop scheming against me. You should spend more time thinking about how to face the Shun family's wrath." With that, he got up to leave. "If you walk out of this room now, you'll regret it tomorrow." Li Changxing's faint voice sounded, making Chun Mushing stop abruptly. "Are you threatening me?" Chun Mushing's voice was a little cold. "Kind of." Li Changsheng didn't deny it, but threw a document directly on the table. "Chairman Chun, you can take a look at the content here, and then consider whether to cooperate with me. I'd like to see what tricks you're playing." Chun Mushing finally picked up the document on the table, but when he saw the first page, his face changed drastically. He turned to the second page, the third page, and the speed of turning the pages became faster and faster. When he finished flipping through the whole set of documents, his hands began to tremble. He looked at Li Changsheng in a daze. How did you get these things?" "It doesn't matter how I got it. What's important is that Chairman Chun now has an answer in his heart. Work with me, or the Chun family's building will collapse." After Li Changsheng finished speaking, he placed his hands on his knees and quietly looked at Chun Mushing. Chun Mushing felt as if all the strength in his body had been sucked out. He slumped down on the sofa. He nodded and said, "If I lose, I will immediately withdraw my investment in the Shun family and transfer it to your project." He took a deep breath and calmed himself down a little. "Then, are we still going according to what we said before? The project's dividends will be double what the Shun family gave me?" He. Li Changsheng shook his head. "Of course not. Double was the price that day. Now, I can only give you 1/10 of what the Shun family gave you. Aren't you going too far?" Anger appeared on Chun Mushing's face. "You can choose not to cooperate with me. You can leave as long as you have the courage." Hearing Li Changxing's words, Chun Mushing finally lowered his head. He knew that he didn't have the courage because walking out meant that the Chun family would be completely destroyed. At this moment, in the principal's office of Qingzhou University, Shen Donghai was looking down at several documents with a cigar in his mouth. In the office, the vice president was reporting something. "Old Shun, just now there was news from Ming City. Chun Mushing and Li Changxing met again. It seems that they have reached some kind of agreement. The Musun Group's investment in the Chun family will be withdrawn and will be invested in another project." "What?" Shen Donghai suddenly raised his head and the documents in his hand fell on the table. But soon the shocked expression in his eyes disappeared and was replaced by a playful expression. "Is that so? The Musun Group and my Shun family have been friends for decades. What's more, the Shin family's real estate investment has brought great returns to the Musun Group. How can he turn around and change sides? I'm afraid this is just a smokescreen that Li Changxing deliberately released. His real purpose is to pressure me and trick me into withdrawing the punishment on Wu Xiaowan and the other students. He underestimates me too much." Hearing Shen Donghai's words, Vice President Yang also had doubts on his face. "I'll call again and ask." With that, Vice President Yang made another call. After hanging up, he was completely stunned. "Old Shun, according to our news in Ning City, I'm afraid that the Musun Group will really withdraw their investment." "Enough." Shen Donghai impatiently interrupted Vice President Yang. "Vice President Yang, I asked you to be in charge of some of my relationships in Ning City because I value and nurture you. You have disappointed me. You have no judgment at all. The Musun Group is a big company, and my Shan family has a lot of power in Ning City. How can a small Li Changxing shake us? Do you believe that a young man in his 20s has the strength to destroy the alliance between our two families? Please think about it when you get the information in the future. What you hear may not be true. Do you understand?" Shen Donghai shook his head in disappointment. "But old Shun," Li Changxing's background is not ordinary. It is very likely that he has something on the Mu Sun group. Enough. Shen Donghai frowned. You can leave. I don't think you are suitable to help me deal with these relationships. I have promoted you in vain. If you are still a loser, I think you should retire early. After driving Vice President Yang out, Shen Donghai shook his head. Li Changsheng came to Ning City to deal with me. He should take a piss and look at himself in the mirror. I only wanted to expel you. It seems that I have to teach you the meaning of a mantis trying to stop a chariot. After that, Shen Donghai suddenly leaned on the chair and held his head with both hands. The chair spun back and forth. He looked at the ceiling and sighed. It is good to have power. I can expel whoever I want. As long as his uncle and the Shun family could hold the power firmly, and with the help of the relationship with the young master of the Wang family, it would not be difficult to be promoted in 3 years. He had to thank Li Changsheng. If he had not offended the Wang family, he would not have had the chance to ride on the Wang family's coattails. Vice President Yang was driven out of the office. He could not help but sigh. In Ning City, in addition to some things that Shun Donghai asked him to deal with, he also had his own channels. In order to confirm the authenticity of the news, he called some of his connections in Ning City. In the end, the result was that the Mu Sun Group was really ready to withdraw their investment. Li Changsheng has such great power. Fortunately, I did not have a direct conflict with him. Last time, I asked Lei Ming to test Li Changsheng. Lei Ming said that this Li Changsheng was not ordinary. Shen Donghai is living in his own sweet dream and does not know that the crisis is coming. I have no need to be buried with him. Thinking of this, Vice President Yang seemed to have made up his mind. Then he dialed the phone. Hello, Director Jiang? Yes, I want to report the personal style of Shen Donghai, the president of Qingzhou University. Yes, I want to report. Chapter 372. Destroy the Shun family in 3 days. When Li Changsheng first proposed this time limit, Qi Xian, Zhao Quan, and several of his people who came to greet Li Changsheng felt that it was very unrealistic. Very unrealistic. However, just 2 days later, everything had undergone earth-shaking changes. The Mu Sun Group withdrew its investment, and the Shun family's capital chain broke, falling into a crisis. The whole Ning City suddenly changed. Zhao Quan did not expect this, and neither did Qi Xian. Chen Mushing and several of his companions, who were hostile to Li Changsheng at the beginning, did not expect this at all. At this moment, the Shun family had completely fallen into madness. When they learned that the Mu Sun Group had terminated their cooperation with them, they tried to obtain funds through other channels, but suddenly found that they were abandoned by the whole world. No matter which credit company or investment group it was, as long as they heard the name of the Shun family, they would retreat as if they had seen the plague. And all this was because Qi Yu and Su Xiaolin had acted together. Although the two giants in the north were long-term operations in Ning City, they still easily made the Shun family fall into a situation of being besieged on all sides. In the face of tens of billions of debt, the Shun family's huge family machine was completely paralyzed, and the whole Shun family was like the end of the world. At this time, Li Changsheng took the initiative to meet the second-in-command of the Shun family, Shun Weidong. Shen Weidong was the second-in-command of the Shun family, but he was not a direct descendant of the Shun family. It was only because he was smart and capable, and his methods were strong, that he went from an unvalued small member to a famous big shot of the Shun family. Now he was the general manager of 3 companies of the Shun family, and his power was splendid. When Li Changsheng saw Shen Weidong, the other party was wearing a suit. He walked into the room, followed by several burly men, who looked at Li Changsheng with hostility. It was hard for anyone to have a good face when they saw the person who almost made their family bankrupt. I don't know why Mr. Li is looking for me, Shen Weidong asked in an unfriendly tone. He was also surprised by Li Changsheng's age. She had originally thought that the one who had caused the Shun family to fall into such a predicament would be a formidable character like Zhao Quan. However, she had not expected that it would be a young man who was not even 20 years old. If not for Zhao Quan, a well-known figure in Ning City, sitting next to Li Changsheng, he would have thought that he had entered the wrong room. I'm here today to give you wealth. Also, don't let your subordinates look at me like that. I don't like that kind of look. Li Changsheng said indifferently. It doesn't matter whether you like it or not. It's true that Li Changsheng is very powerful, but I, Shen Weidong, will not betray the Shen family. After saying that, he didn't even have the intention to sit down. He turned around and was about to leave. You're quite hot-tempered. Li Changsheng pursed his lips. He originally thought that the Shen family was in a predicament and that Shen Dongwei would probably nod his head and bow to him in fear. Unexpectedly, not only was the other party not panicking at all, his attitude was unyielding. Mr. Shen, why are you in such a hurry to leave? We can have a good talk. Li Changsheng looked at the bodyguards next to him. 2 bodyguards stood at the door and blocked Shen Weidong's way. What? You want to be rough with me? Shen Weidong? Shen Weidong frowned. He raised his arm and slapped the bodyguard on the chin. The bodyguard took 2 steps back and blood spilled from the corner of his mouth. Shen Weidong showed his skills. He waved his hand and grabbed a chopstick on the table. He threw it directly at Li Changsheng's head. He was aiming at the position of 1 inch above Li Changsheng's head. He wanted to use this to scare Li Changsheng. However, at the moment when the chopstick was about to reach Li Changsheng grabbed the wine glass and threw it up. It hit the chopstick and deviated the angle of the chopstick. It shot at the position of the right rear. The chopstick directly pierced into the wall. Zhao Quan was so scared that his face turned pale. He never thought that a chopstick was as powerful as a crossbow arrow. However, Shen Weidong's eyes lit up. It turned out to be a kindred spirit. It seems that I underestimated you. As soon as he finished speaking, he dashed out like an arrow, stepped on the table, and aimed a punch at Li Changsheng's chest. Li Changsheng dodged his attack with a sidestep. Shen Weidong's fighting spirit was aroused. After his punch missed, he immediately grabbed Li Changsheng's shoulder. Obviously, his skills had reached a higher level. He had the demeanor of a master. However, his opponent was Li Changsheng. When his palm fell on Shen Weidong's shoulder, Li Changsheng suddenly raised his hand. Shen Weidong suddenly flew out as if he was hit by a high-speed train. Crack! His body hit the door. The door made of solid wood was smashed into pieces. The 2 bodyguards who followed Shen Weidong were about to make a move. They saw Li Changsheng casually grab a pair of chopsticks. With a flick of his hand, the 2 chopsticks stabbed into the feet of the 2 bodyguards. The 2 bodyguards suddenly screamed and fell to the ground. At this time, from the beginning of Shen Weidong's attack to the end, it was only a few seconds. Zhao Quan and the 2 bodyguards next to him were completely stunned. They never thought that Li Changsheng, at such a young age, would be so powerful. Suddenly, Li Changsheng's skill shocked the audience. Even after Shen Weidong got up from the ground, he completely lost his temper. Mr. Shen, can we sit down and have a good talk? Li Changsheng motioned to the 2 bodyguards next to him. The 2 bodyguards immediately pulled out the 2 men who were knocked to the ground by Li Changsheng's chopsticks. Another waiter came up to clean up the messy room. Shen Weidong then sat down in bewilderment. Shen Weidong has been practicing martial arts for a long time. He thought his skills were good. But today, he was defeated by Li Changsheng. From the beginning to the end, he did not see through Li Changsheng's martial arts. At this moment, Li Changsheng gave him an unfathomable feeling. What do you want to do? Shen Weidong was afraid of Li Changsheng. In his eyes, Li Changsheng was full of mystery. A person who could easily put the Shen family in danger and had such powerful martial arts. Let's talk about the cooperation between the 2 of us. Cooperation? How? Shen Weidong remained vigilant. The Shen family is about to be destroyed by you, but you are hypocritically cooperating. You can't be thinking of helping the Shen family rise after destroying it, right? Shen Weidong's mouth showed some disdain. I destroyed the Shen family, but I just want to change the master of the Shen family. I think you know the current situation of the Shen family better than an outsider like me. I'm afraid it won't be long before the Shen family goes bankrupt. In the next few days, I will buy all the assets of the Shen family. By then, most of the Shen family will be driven out of the house and fall to the streets. The more Shun Weidong listened, the stronger the anger in his eyes became. Originally, the Shun family was thriving as the #1 family in Ning City. Now, as Li Changsheng said, the wealth and glory would soon be a thing of the past. Shun Weidong had worked hard for so many years, but in the end, it was all for nothing. I, Li Changsheng, don't like to beat around the bush. Shun Weidong, after I buy the Shun family, I need someone to take charge of the Shun family for me. Coincidentally, I chose you. Tell me, are you willing? If you nod, no matter how big the changes of the Shun family are, it will have nothing to do with you. You will just have a new master. If you are not willing, you can take your wife and children to the streets to beg for food. I will take special care of you. No one will give you money even if you beg for food. Shun Weidong didn't expect Li Changsheng to be so hateful. As a member of the Shun family, especially since the head of the Shun family groomed him, he couldn't get over himself to do such a thing. Seeing his hesitation, Li Changsheng showed some appreciation in his eyes. If it was a person who could betray his family easily, Li Changsheng wouldn't dare to use such a person. You are extremely loyal to the head of the Shun family, but have you ever thought that the person in your heart is actually your enemy? What do you mean? Shun Weidong's eyes showed confusion. Li Changsheng stretched out his hand, and Zhao Quan handed him a document. Here is a document. It is the position transfer of the family members by the head of the Shun family. His ultimate goal is to remove you, the second in command, from the center of power and kick you out of the Shun family. You are so smart, but you still can't see the true face of the head of the Shun family. After saying that, Li Changsheng threw the document directly in front of Shun Weidong. Shun Weidong didn't believe it at first, but after picking up the document, his face became more and more ugly. When he finished reading it, he collapsed on the chair. How can it be? How can it be? After more than 10 minutes, he recovered. How is it? Can we have a good talk now? Li Changsheng had expected such a result. Chapter 373. Not long after Li Changsheng and Shun Weidong's conversation, there was news. The Shun family's businesses were all purchased by a mysterious figure, Mr. Li. At the same time, the second in command of the Shun family, Shun Weidong, had officially succeeded as the head of the Shun family. The original head of the Shun family had committed suicide due to his involvement in various criminal activities. When the news spread, the entire Peace City was in an uproar. Everyone who knew the inside story understood that Peace City had completely changed. The dignified Shin family had a change of master overnight. Everyone in Ning City was curious about who this Mr. Li was and how he could have such great power. Just when the entire Peace City was in an uproar and discussing animatedly, Li Changsheng had returned to the villa and was leisurely sipping tea with Qi Xian. I should return to Qingzhou tomorrow. Go back and tell your father that the matter with the Shun family is done well. Okay. Qi Xian nodded. If someone else spoke to him with such an attitude, he would definitely be angry. However, when these words came out of Li Changsheng's mouth, it sounded natural. At this moment, Zhao Quan walked in. Mr. Li, young Master Qi, the representatives of the major forces in Peace City have jointly organized a banquet tonight. They would like to meet you. After all, you are now the true ruler of Peace City. What do you think, Mr. Li? Indeed, the Shun family had changed owners. The Musun group had also been subdued by Li Changsheng. In addition, the Qi family's businesses in Peace City had all been returned to Li Changsheng. Now, Li Changsheng was truly the #1 person in Peace City. Since they want to meet me, I'm not a virgin who's afraid of meeting people. Let's meet them. I have something to tell them anyway. Hearing Li Changsheng's words, Zhao Quan immediately nodded. Then I'll inform them to hold the banquet tonight as scheduled. Go ahead. Li Changsheng nodded. Soon it was nighttime. A large cruise ship was quietly docked at the port of Peace City. Today's banquet was to be held on this cruise ship. Although this banquet was only held at the last minute, it gathered the leaders of all walks of life in Peace City. Almost all the members of the upper class were present. The number of people was beyond imagination. When Li Changsheng and Zhao Quan stepped onto the cruise ship together, they saw the dense crowd of people coming and going. They couldn't help but be secretly shocked by the scale of this banquet. On the deck of the cruise ship, Wang Yutong was wearing a light blue dress and silver high heels. She had a head of long black hair, a perfect oval face, and a slender figure. She had an enchanting charm. She had obviously specially dressed up today. She was slender and elegant, radiating radiance. Wang Yutong was very satisfied with the results of this trip to Peace City. Accompanying Wang Yutong to the banquet was her suitor, the eldest young master of the Yang family, Yang Ning. Today, Yang Ning was wearing a suit and looked high-spirited. Standing next to Wang Yutong, they looked like a perfect match. I heard that today's banquet is mainly for that Mr. Li. I wonder who this Mr. Li is to actually be able to purchase the Shun family overnight. Wang Yutong asked curiously. I don't know what this Mr. Li looks like, but I heard that he's a very powerful character. Yang Ning whispered mysteriously, Yutong, you still don't know. My uncle is the current head of the Shun family, Shun Weidong. Although this Mr. Li is famous in Peace City now, if he wants to manage the Shun family well, he still has to rely on my uncle. Wang Yutong's eyes were filled with surprise. So your uncle is actually the current head of the Shun family, Shun Weidong. If the turmoil in Peace City this time had helped anyone, it would undoubtedly be the newly risen mysterious Mr. Li. The other person was the second in command of the Shun family, Shun Weidong. In the past, Shun Weidong had taken control of the 3 companies of the Shun family, which was already envied by many. Now that Li Changsheng had placed all the power in his hands, he was truly second only to one person in all of the Shun family's businesses. The Shun family is a big shot in the real estate industry. For today's banquet, Shun Weidong will definitely appear. Don't forget to introduce him to me. Wang Yutong's gaze towards Yang Ning changed. In the past, she only knew that he was the eldest young master of the Yang family. She didn't expect him to be related to the Shun family. Of course, Yang Ning patted his chest and promised. By the way, a few of my friends from Peace City will be here in a while. Let's get to know each other. As they were talking, a group of people soon came over. Young Master Yang, I was wondering why you didn't come with us. So, it's because you have a beauty to accompany you. That's right, young Master Yang. You're not a good brother. Once you have a beauty, you leave your brothers behind. These people were all Yang Ning's friends in Peace City. Wang Yutong was particularly generous at this time. She greeted and got to know them one by one. Soon, everyone became familiar with each other. Let's go. The banquet is about to start. Let's not delay the fun. Yang Ning put his arm around Wang Yutong's shoulder naturally. Surprisingly, Wang Yutong didn't dodge him today. This made his eyes light up. It seemed that because of his uncle, Shun Weidong, Wang Yutong had a new level of respect for him. At this moment, Wang Yutong suddenly pointed in a direction in front and said, Look, it's the guy we met on the plane the other day. Yang Ning looked up and saw Li Changsheng standing on the deck with his hands in his pockets, enjoying the sea breeze. It's really him. Yang Ning's lips curled into a playful smile. Why? Do you know him, young Master Yang? A young man next to him was puzzled. There was a little unpleasantness on the plane, but the other party seems to have some background in Peace City. When Yang Ning finished speaking, the young man immediately smirked. In Peace City, no matter how big the background is, can it be bigger than Mr. Shun Weidong? How dare he offend young Master Yang? I'll go over and teach him a lesson. With that, he walked directly to where Li Changsheng was. Li Changsheng was looking at the sea in the night board. Zhao Quan and Qi Xian were chatting with a few big shots in Peace City. Li Changsheng didn't like that kind of atmosphere and came out to take a breather. Hello, friend. Do you have a cigarette? Let me one. A slightly light voice sounded. Li Changsheng turned his head and saw a young man in a suit looking at him with a smile. He took out a cigarette and handed it to the other party. The other party took the cigarette and sniffed it. Then, he threw it on the ground with a look of disgust. Why is there a stench in this cigarette? He even made a vomiting gesture and looked at Li Changsheng. Don't tell me it's stained with your scent? Li Changsheng frowned instantly. The other party's eyes were obviously mocking him. He was deliberately looking for trouble. I don't think we know each other. Li Chongqing's voice was a little colder. Yeah, we didn't know each other in the past. But so what if I don't like you? Bite me? Haha. The other party was very arrogant. Young Master Jun, you don't say. He might just bite you. You still have to get rabies vaccine. Another voice was heard. A young man stood beside young Master Jun and looked at Li Chongqing. Kid, our young Master Jun is a well-known figure in Peace City. Young Master Jun doesn't like you. So, if you apologize sincerely to our young Master Jun, this matter will be over. The conflict here attracted a lot of attention. When the other party finished speaking, many people were surprised. Who is this young Master Jun? He took the initiative to find trouble with others. The other party didn't say anything, and instead, he asked the other party to apologize. Hey, friend, you have to be careful with your words. This young Master Jun is the young master of the Wanjiang group. He has always been known for being unreasonable. So it's him. For a moment, everyone looked at young Master Jun in a different light. At the same time, they looked at Li Chongqing with pity. No matter what the reason was, to everyone, it was bad luck to offend this young Master Jun. Chapter 374. Not far away, Yang Ning crossed his arms in front of his chest with a smug look on his face. When he saw Li Chongqing being picked up in a grand manner at the airport that day, he felt like he was slapped in the face on the spot. He did not dare to find trouble with Li Chongqing. But who would have thought that in just a few days, his uncle, who was only the second in command of the Shun family, would suddenly become the head of the Shun family? Becoming a person who was second only to one person and above tens of thousands of people in Ning City, he instantly gained confidence. Even if Li Chongqing had some background, he did not take it seriously. Kid, I asked you to apologize to young Master Jun. Didn't you hear me? The young man said loudly. At this moment, young Master Jun smiled and said, Kid, I was just joking with you just now to give you a reminder. In Ning City, if you're a dragon, you have to coil up. If you're a tiger, you have to lie down. Don't think that you can show off just because you have some connections. This is my advice to you. You don't have to thank me. After saying that, he turned around and was about to leave. Wait a minute. At this moment, Li Chongqing, who had been silent all this while, suddenly spoke. I also want to joke with you too. What do you mean? Young Master Jun and his companions were puzzled and did not react for a while. Pick up the cigarette that was thrown on the ground just now and lick the dirt off it, Li Chongqing said lightly. When these words came out, the surrounding people were shocked. On the other side, Yang Ning and Wang Yutong were in disbelief. Young Master Jun was famous in Ning City for his bad temper. He often got into fights and bullied people. Li Chongqing actually dared to talk to him like that. After a short moment of surprise, young Master Jun's face immediately turned cold. Kid, I'll give you a chance to reorganize your words. Otherwise, do you believe that I will throw you into the sea to feed the sharks? Young Master Jun's face had completely sunk. He originally came over to avenge Yang Ning and wanted to tease Li Chongqing. He didn't expect that the other party would dare to go against him. Unexpectedly, Li Chongqing didn't seem to care about his identity at all. He said indifferently, I'll give you a chance too. Pick up the cigarette in 3 seconds, or I'll throw you off the cruise ship with my own hands. I don't know if there are sharks in the water, but in such cold weather, I'm sure you'll experience what it means to be chilled to the core. As soon as he said this, Jun Xiaojun was thoroughly enraged. He unbuttoned his suit and took it off. Then, he rolled up his sleeves and clenched his fists, which made cracking sounds. Brat, I have to teach you a lesson. This young Master Jun had learned fighting techniques before. Normally, he would have no problem fighting 2 or 3 people by himself. You. Li Chongqing shook his head, his face full of disdain. On the other side, Wang Yutong said worriedly, Yang Ning, that Li Chongqing has a background after all. Will anything go wrong? However, Yang Ning shook her head. It's fine. Let young Master Jun teach him a lesson. Besides, don't you still have me? My uncle is now the head of the Shun family, and he has a good relationship with Mr. Li. What can happen? Hearing Yang Ning's words, Wang Yutong nodded. At this time, young Master Jun had already walked in front of Li Changsheng. He raised his fist and punched at Li Changsheng. This punch was full of vigor and was very imposing. Many people thought that Li Changsheng would be beaten black and blue by this punch. Unexpectedly, before the fist could even get close, Li Changsheng grabbed it by the wrist and pulled it forward. Immediately, young Master Jun staggered forward. When he finally stopped, he saw a foot getting bigger and bigger in his eyes. The foot landed solidly on his face, and his whole body flew back 2 meters like a sandbag. Just when he was about to stand up, Li Changsheng had already walked forward quickly and stepped on his chest. "Brat, I'm going to kill you." Young Master Jun gritted his teeth and roared. His eyes were bloodshot and filled with hatred. However, in the next moment, Li Changsheng directly raised his foot and stepped on him fiercely. With Li Changsheng's strength, even if he only used 1% of his strength, it was not something that young Master Jun could withstand. Therefore, there was a cracking sound, and no one knew how many ribs were broken. Just like that, young Master Jun was directly knocked out. The next moment, Li Changsheng lifted his foot and walked into the cruise ship without even looking at young Master Jun, who had fallen to the ground. Yang Ning and the others looked on bitterly. It was not until Li Changsheng completely disappeared into the crowd that Yang Ning and the others reacted and went to check on young Master Jun's injuries. Several people lifted young Master Jun in a hurry and then called the ambulance. "Young Master Yang, you can't take this lying down." Several young masters around him were holding their breaths. They had always been the ones bullying others, but today they were bullied. They felt that they were going to lose face. "I know." Young Master Yang's eyes were filled with hatred. "I didn't expect this kid to know Kung Fu, but he forgot that today's cruise party was organized by my uncle, Shun Weidong. Later, I will borrow a few people from my uncle to teach him a lesson." After Yang Ning finished speaking, several others nodded. "Let's go in and keep an eye on him. Don't let him slip away." After that, 2 people were there to look after young Master Jun. The others walked inside. Li Changsheng entered and casually found a seat to sit down. Yang Ning and the others sat not far away from him, staring at him for fear that he would escape. "Miss Yutong, young Master Yang, you are here." A voice sounded. A middle-aged man with a big belly walked over, surrounded by several bodyguards. It was the middle-aged President Yin who drove to meet Wang Yutong at the airport that day. "What a coincidence to meet you here." Seeing the 2 bodyguards behind the bald middle-aged man, Yang Ning's face suddenly lit up. "President Yin, do you see that kid?" Yang Ning pointed in the direction of Li Changsheng. President Yin nodded. "Isn't this the guy at the airport that day? He injured my friend just now." "President Yin, can you let your bodyguard go over and teach him a lesson?" In Yang Ning's view, even if Li Changsheng knew Kung Fu, it was impossible for him to beat President Yan's 2 bodyguards. At least from the outside, President Yan's 2 bodyguards were strong and their eyes were bright. In terms of aura, they were much stronger than Li Changsheng and gave people confidence. Today is the reception to welcome Mr. Li. If we fight at the reception, what if Mr. Li blames us? President Yan's face was a little hesitant. "Don't worry." Yang Ning patted his chest and promised. "President Yin, just do it. My uncle is Shun Weidong. Mr. Li still needs my uncle to manage the Shun family. He won't blame me. So Shun Weidong is your uncle." This time, even President Yan's face changed and showed some flattery. "Then it's okay. I heard that Mr. Li admires Master Shin very much. With Master Shan behind him, I have nothing to worry about. Leave that kid to me." With that, he winked at the 2 bodyguards behind him and directly surrounded Li Changsheng. Chapter 375. Li Changsheng had already noticed that these people were sneaking around. When he saw them coming towards him, he couldn't help showing some coldness in his eyes. He didn't deal with those big shots of Ning City with Qi Xian and Zhao Quan because he wanted to have some peace and quiet. He didn't expect that it was not peaceful at all. "Boy, I heard that you just offended young Master Yang. I want to talk to you alone." Yin Wenhua walked in front of Li Changsheng and winked at the 2 bodyguards next to him. The 2 bodyguards immediately grabbed Li Changsheng's shoulders with one hand each and tried to take Li Changsheng away by force. However, when they exerted their strength, their expressions changed, because they felt that their hands were not grabbing people's shoulders, but a piece of iron. No matter how hard they tried, the other party didn't respond. Instead, they felt pain in their fingers. Yin Wenhua frowned and was about to reprimand the two bodyguards for their incompetence. Suddenly, there was an uproar in the crowd. Shen Weidong and the others are here. Yin Wenhua turned his head and saw Shen Weidong and the others striding over, accompanied by a group of big shots of Ning City. "Boss, what should we do?" The two bodyguards looked at Yin Wenhua. After all, several big shots were here. If he made trouble here, it was inevitable that he would make the big shots unhappy. "Let's go. You're lucky. I'll deal with you after the banquet." After that, Yin Wenhua winked at the two bodyguards and turned to leave. He walked back to Yang Ning. "Young Master Yang." Yin Wenhua was about to explain something, but Yang Ning waved his hand. "Don't worry. This is my uncle's home ground. You don't have to worry about not having a chance to deal with him." After that, Yin Wenhua breathed a sigh of relief and said with a bit of flattery, "Young Master Yang, can you introduce me to the head of Shun family?" "Don't worry." Yang Ning patted Yin Wenhua's shoulder. "President Yin is so kind. Of course, I have to return the favor." "Thank you, young Master Yang." Yin Wenhua's face suddenly showed a smile. "Look, my uncle is here." Yang Ning's face showed excitement. Now Shen Weidong was a famous figure in Ning City. He felt very proud to have such an uncle. Sure enough, many people next to him also showed envious eyes. "Please take care of me in the future, young Master Yang." "Yes, I heard that young Master Yang likes antique calligraphy and paintings. I happen to have a landscape painting at home. It's not worth much, so I'll give it to young Master Yang as a souvenir." Yang Ning's friends all spoke up. They used to have a good relationship with Yang Ning, but it was built on the premise of equal treatment. But now it was different. Because of Shen Weidong, Yang Ning's status was higher than theirs. Seeing all of this, Wang Yutong was also pondering. She had rejected Yang Ning's confession of love several times before. First, it was because she didn't like Yang Ming's exaggerated temperament. Second, it was because the Yang family and her family were too well matched. She was an ambitious woman. Finding a boyfriend who was as powerful as her family was not enough to satisfy her ambition. However, things were different now. Yang Ning had an uncle who was the head of the family, and her family was planning to expand their business to Ning City. Thinking about it this way, it seemed that Yang Ning's shortcomings were not unacceptable. He was becoming more and more like her ideal partner. Why is that Zhao Quan here too? Yang Ning suddenly saw Zhao Quan, who was walking with Shen Weidong, with some doubts in her eyes. Yin Wenhua, who was next to her, sneered. "I didn't expect Zhao Quan to curry favor with Patriarch Shen so quickly. He managed to climb onto Patriarch Shen's boat so quickly. Your uncle is now very influential in Ning City." "It's not surprising," Wang Yutong said. At the same time, she kept looking around and asked with some doubts, "I wonder which one is Mr. Li? Could it be that?" Wang Yutong saw that with the appearance of a young man, even Shen Weidong became respectful. "He's so young. How could he be Mr. Li?" Yang Ning shook her head. Sure enough, she heard Shen Weidong take the initiative to shake hands and said with a smile, "Hello, young Master Qi. Qi Xian is Qi Yu's son. Although he's not the Mr. Li that people want to see, his identity as Qi Yu's son is already very powerful. Even the son of the sick tiger Qi Yu is here. It seems that Mr. Li is really powerful." Wang Yutong sighed. "That's right. If he's not powerful, can he change the Shen family's head in such a short time? But the more powerful Mr. Li is, the more important my uncle is," Yang Ning said complacently. The young masters next to her, including Yin Wenhua, were even more determined to please Yang Ning, especially Yin Wenhua. He couldn't help but look at Li Changsheng, who was sitting there as if there was no one around. He thought to himself, "We don't have any grudges, but in order to please Mr. Yang, I might have to make an example out of you." At this time, the banquet officially began. "Everyone, please be quiet. I know that everyone gathered here today wants to see Mr. Li. Let's invite Mr. Li to make a grand appearance." Shen Weidong said loudly. Suddenly, the place fell into absolute silence. Everyone was looking around, waiting for Mr. Li to appear. Do you think this Mr. Li is a handsome guy? Wang Yutong guessed curiously. Definitely not. Yang Ning shook her head directly. How could a young man bring down the Shun family in a few days? He must be a bad old man. At this time, Li Changsheng, who was sitting there, stood up slowly. Is this guy going to take the opportunity to escape? Yang Ning snorted and told Yin Wenhua, send someone to keep an eye on him. If he goes out of the gate, take him down. Yes. Yin Wenhua nodded. He winked at the two bodyguards next to him. The two bodyguards were about to take action, but they saw that Li Changsheng didn't slip away quietly. Instead, he strode toward the high platform. What's going on? What is this guy going to do? Everyone was confused. He has a good relationship with Zhao Quan. Is he going to ask for Zhao Quan's protection? A young master next to him guessed. Zhao Quan seems to have a good relationship with the master of the Shun family. If he intercedes, it will be difficult to deal with Li Changsheng. Yin Wenhua's eyes showed some regret. Yang Ning shook her head. My uncle is a person who pays attention to the order of seniority. If Li Changsheng waits until the end of the banquet and asks for my uncle's protection, my uncle will help him. But on this occasion, Mr. Li hasn't come out yet, and he ran up. You see, we don't need to do anything. My uncle will deal with him first. Hearing Yang Ning's words, several young masters around showed excitement in their eyes. It seems that this guy is finished. At this time, many people noticed Li Changsheng, who stood up. Several rich people in Ning City on the stage couldn't help but shout coldly, where is this guy who doesn't know the rules? Now it's time for Mr. Li to appear. Hurry back to your seat. However, as soon as the voice came out, Shen Weidong glared at him fiercely. Shut up. Then he took the initiative to walk down the high platform. Chapter 376. Mr. Li, except for Shen Weidong. Qi Xian and Zhao Quan also greeted him. Suddenly, everyone in the field was stunned and couldn't figure out what was going on. He is Mr. Li? A person said leisurely. Everyone turned around and saw that it was Chen Musheng, the boss of the Musun group. Chen Musheng's face was a little emotional. When he saw Li Changsheng for the first time, he was like everyone else and didn't care about Li Changsheng. But who would have thought that this young man would use less than 3 days to make him yield and change the Shun family's master? He is Mr. Li? Only then did the bosses on the stage react, so they scrambled to greet him. Hello, Mr. Li. Mr. Li is so young. Mr. Li is so handsome. You are really a dragon among men. Sound of flattery could be heard. Although Chen Musheng had a lot of resentment against Li Changsheng, he chose to join the flattering camp at this moment. The Shun family had changed hands, and Ning City had become Li Changsheng's world. He didn't dare to let Li Changsheng notice his dissatisfaction. If Li Changsheng dealt with him like he dealt with the Shun family, he couldn't bear it. Moreover, Li Changsheng had a lot of evidence in his hands that was enough to kill him instantly. At this moment, a group of rich second generation around Yang Ning were dumbfounded. He is Mr. Li. The smile on Yin Wenhua's face froze, and the cigar in his hand fell to the floor. Wang Yutong's eyes were full of disbelief. On the plane, Li Changsheng said that Yang Ning didn't deserve to let him carry the suitcase. At that time, Wang Yutong thought it was because of his pride. Now it seemed that she was looking down on him. Yang Ning, who had a proud face, only felt that all his strength was drained. He collapsed on the carpet and felt that the whole world had become dark. Mr. Li is really an outstanding person. From now on, my Ning City will follow Mr. Li's lead. A famous big boss in Ning City, at this moment, was bowing in front of Li Changsheng with incomparable respect. President Wu, you're too polite. We still have many opportunities to work together. Li Changsheng smiled faintly and was immediately greeted with a bunch of praises. This Li Changsheng is neither arrogant nor rash at such a young age. How rare. That's right. Look at him. He's speaking neither too fast nor too slow. One look and you can tell that he's a big shot. Many people sighed. If Li Changsheng had acted like this before, then everyone would have thought that he did not have the temperament to speak with confidence. However, with the addition of the halo of Ning City's #1 person, it immediately changed. I'm extremely honored that Mr. Li allowed me to take charge of the Shun family. I won't let Mr. Li down in the future. Shen Weidong expressed his loyalty to Li Changsheng. As the new patriarch of the Shun family, and the second most important person in Ning City, Shun Weidong's words made many people who still felt that Li Changsheng's identity were unbelievable. He really is Mr. Li. You really have hidden your strength well. Wang Yutong muttered to herself as her eyes lit up. Li Changsheng had such a big background, but he was so low-key on the plane. In contrast, Yang Ning, whose family strength was not even 1% of Li Changsheng's, was bouncing around as if he was the most powerful person in the world. Compared with Li Changsheng, he was simply a clown. When choosing a husband, you should choose a person like Li Changsheng. Only such a person is worthy of you and can give you the greatest help. For a moment, Wang Yutong's beautiful eyes were full of Li Changsheng's shadow. As for Yang Ning next to her, he still became a pile of stinky dog shit in her eyes. Mr. Shun, I naturally believe in your ability, but you focus on your career and sometimes ignore the people around you. It's very likely that they will use your identity to intimidate you and create a lot of unnecessary trouble for you, especially your nephew. Li Changsheng seemed to inadvertently remind him. But what kind of person was Shen Weidong? He immediately understood Li Changsheng's meaning. He glanced around the room. When he saw Yang Ning, who was dumbfounded, he suddenly became angry and said coldly, "Get over here." Shen Weidong used to be quite dignified when he was the second in command in the Shun family. Now, with the promotion of his status, the deterrence was heavier. When he shouted, Yang Ning was so scared that he almost wet his pants. "Mr. Li, I was wrong. Uncle, I was wrong." Yang Ning almost knelt down and kowtowed. He was really scared. Shun Weidong, who became the head of the Shun family, made him feel that he had a mountain to rely on. And Li Changsheng, who created Shun Weidong, could easily make him and his whole family fall into hell. "Mr. Li, you see," Shen Weidong looked at Li Changsheng carefully. Although he hated this nephew of his, after all, they were related by blood. If Li Changsheng directly wanted to punish Yang Ning, he would definitely plead for mercy. "Forget it, I don't care." Li Changsheng waved his hand. Yang Ning was a pile of stinky dog shit in his eyes. It would be degrading to care about him. "Thank you, Mr. Li." There was gratitude in Shen Weidong's eyes. In his opinion, Li Changsheng said that he didn't care about it because he was giving him face. What reason did he have not to do his best to repay such a master? "Well, let's start the banquet," Li Changsheng said, and immediately the banquet became lively again. Yang Ning, who was forgiven, stood up with lingering fear. He wanted to come over and apologize to Li Changsheng, but Shen Weidong slapped him in the face. He spun 3 times on the spot and got out of the banquet with his tail between his legs. When he learned that in addition to Yang Ning, Yin Wenhua also offended Li Changsheng, there was no need for Li Changsheng to say anything. Shen Weidong directly asked someone to drive Yin Wenhua out and told him to prepare a bowl. In 2 days, he could go begging on the street. Seeing Yin Wenhua directly paralyzed on the deck, no one had the slightest sympathy for him, even daring to offend the dignified Mr. Li. Everyone only felt that they were gloating. "Mr. Li, can I dance with you?" Wang Yutong hesitated, took the initiative to walk in front of Li Changsheng and open her mouth. Li Changsheng looked up and down at the woman. There was no doubt that Wang Yutong was very beautiful and charming, but Li Changsheng still shook his head. "Sorry, I don't know how to." With that, he waved to the several big bosses in the banquet hall and walked into the back room, leaving Wang Yutong standing there with a lost face. It was the first time that she was rejected by a man. In the room, Li Changsheng directly took out a list and put on the table. There are more than 100 kinds of medicinal herbs recorded in this list. I will buy them at a high price. The more you help me find, the greater the credit. In the future, the benefits of Ning City will be distributed according to your credit. Li Changsheng was now the #1 person in Ning City, and the resources of Ning City were completely under his control. He casually said a few words. To others, it was tens of millions of income and losses. There were not many promises. After Li Changsheng said those words, he directly left the banquet hall. At this time, many rich people picked up the list and took pictures of the contents with their mobile phones. Benefits were the biggest driving force. Li Changsheng believed that in order to get more wealth in Ning City, these people would naturally do their best to help him find the medicinal herbs. No matter how much money there was in the secular world, for Li Changsheng, it was just a series of numbers. Only his own strength was what he valued. Chapter 377. He had just left the cruise ship and returned to the villa with Qi Xian. Suddenly, a figure rushed out and pounced on Li Changsheng. Qi Xian reacted and was about to make a move when he saw the figure hugging Li Changsheng's thigh. "Mr. Li, I was wrong. Please forgive me." Looking down, Li Changsheng could not help but be surprised. The figure turned out to be Shen Donghai. "Isn't this Principal Shen?" Li Changsheng sneered. He still remembered that when he punished Ma Yu and the others a few days ago, Shen Donghai's face was completely different from the pitiful Shen Donghai, who looked like a refugee. "Mr. Li, I was wrong. Please forgive me. I'm willing to revoke the punishment for Ma Yu and the others. I'm willing to listen to everything Mr. Li says in the future and be your slave." Shen Donghai rubbed his snot and tears on Li Changsheng's trousers. Li Changsheng couldn't help but reveal a bit of disgust in his eyes. At the same time, he was somewhat puzzled. Although he had destroyed the Shun family, he did not have time to do anything to Shen Donghai. How did Shen Donghai become like this? Just as he was wondering, a few flashlights suddenly shone over. A few men in casual clothes walked over. When they saw Shen Donghai, they immediately rushed up. Shen Donghai was so scared that he wanted to run away. However, he was pressed to the ground before he could take 2 steps. Then, a pair of silver handcuffs cuffed his hands. At this time, the bodyguards beside Zhao Quan immediately stood up. After all, they were in front of Zhao Quan's villa. At this time, one of them came forward and handed a document to Li Changsheng. "We are the police. We are arresting a criminal. Please cooperate." Li Changsheng nodded. The bodyguards immediately stepped back. Then, Shen Donghai was dragged into the car. Although he did not know why Shen Donghai was being chased by the police, it saved Li Changsheng the trouble of going back to Qingzhou to deal with him. When Li Changsheng returned to Qingzhou, he knew the ins and outs of everything. He did not expect that Shen Donghai would be stabbed by his confidant, Vice Principal Yang. Of course, Vice Principal Yang had been by Shen Donghai's side all these years and had done a lot of dirty things. When Li Changsheng returned to school, he happened to see Vice Principal Yang being taken away as well. Vice Principal Yang did a good deed before he was taken away. He revoked the punishment against Ma Yi and the others. On the second day after returning to Qingzhou, Li Changsheng received a call from Wu Xiaowan. "Li Changsheng, I almost lost my job to help you." On the other end of the phone, Wu Xiaowan's voice was crisp and sweet. She sounded a little lazy, as if she had just woken up. "People always say that one should return the favor. Since I've helped you, you should at least return the favor." Wu Xiaowan's words carried a sense of bewitchment. "I know. I'll treat you to a meal another day." "Just a meal? You owe me more than a meal." Li Changsheng smiled bitterly, not knowing how to answer. At this moment, Wu Xiaowan's voice became solemn. "Li Changsheng, I have a small favor to ask of you. You won't refuse me, right?" Li Changsheng thought, so she was waiting for me here. He smiled and said, "Tell me, what's the matter?" "Some time ago, someone introduced me to a boyfriend. That guy claims to be a black belt in Taekwondo, but I think he's just being perfunctory. I want you to test his strength for me." "Well, aren't you afraid that I'll break your new boyfriend's arms and legs?" Li Changsheng smiled playfully. "That's easy. Just compensate me with you." Wu Xiaowan's voice was a little charming. Li Changsheng hurriedly found a reason and hung up the phone. How could he not understand Wu Xiaowan's intention? But she was really not Li Changsheng's type. On the 6th day after Li Changsheng returned to Qingzhou, the winter vacation finally came. And for students, The vacation was always something to look forward to. Therefore, on the last day of the vacation, walking around the campus, one could feel the anticipation and joy in everyone's heart. Jiang Tao proposed to have one last gathering before the vacation. Although the vacation was very short, and they could be reunited soon, the bleak scene that could be seen everywhere on campus brewed a bit of sadness for no reason. Although it was the normal cycle of everything in the world, humans were willing to give them more emotions. Even if the parting was short, it would still tug at people's heartstrings. This time, Jiang Tao took his girlfriend, Su Ying, to dinner. Zhang Xiaofeng took Shang Shuqin. Only Zhang Mengmeng, Hao Ting, and the others, who used to gather together because of Shang Jianping's matter, seemed to have fallen apart. Even Shang Shuqin looked at Li Changsheng with a somewhat complicated expression. Who would have thought that this ordinary-looking young man was the most hidden big boss among them? They went out to eat hot pot. In this cold winter, the steaming hot pot made people feel warm just thinking about it. After the banquet, they all went home. Li Changsheng went out to take a taxi and returned to his villa. When the taxi driver saw Li Changsheng approaching the upscale residential area, he couldn't help but sigh with emotion. Are the children of rich families so low-key nowadays? Compared with the lively atmosphere in the hot pot restaurant, the villa still gave people a cold and cheerless feeling, although the temperature had risen. Other students returned home during the vacation. Their parents, relatives, siblings, old classmates, and old friends were like wild horses released to the grassland, breathing the air of freedom and long-lost joy to their heart's content. Li Changsheng, even though he sometimes completely regarded himself as an 18 or 19-year-old college student, still found himself alone in this world at this moment. Cultivation was originally a lonely thing. It was far longer than ordinary people's lifespan, and it had a feeling that ordinary people couldn't experience, like a lone ranger. When one walked further and further on the road of cultivation, looking back, one would find that the ancients had turned into a handful of yellow soil. Time was ruthless. Cultivators were blessed by time, but they had to bear more parting. It was especially so for people like Li Changsheng, who had lived for tens of thousands of years. His friends died one after another, but he still lived in this world. Few people could empathize with this feeling of loneliness. A boss of a company in Ning City sent some herbs over. To Li Changsheng's surprise, the quality of these materials was not bad, and they even came with a few spirit stones. Li Changsheng was very surprised. It was not surprising to find some precious jade in a place where there were few people. But spirit stones were different. The place where spirit stones were produced must have spirit mines. The reason why the other party brought spirit stones to Li Changsheng was that he didn't know the value of these things. He just treated them as ordinary jade and gave them to Li Changsheng to make jewelry. It was just that he didn't know that these were 1,000,000 times more valuable than ordinary jade. Seeing the spirit stones made Li Changsheng's mood quite excited. After a little inquiry, he found out that the other party knew a businessman who did medicinal herbs business. He specialized in selling these medicinal herbs from the depths of the border forest. Of course, medicinal herbs were only a part of his business. There were also many weapons and the like. From the words of the boss, he knew that the other party's influence was not ordinary. To be able to do such a business, one must be an ambitious and ruthless person, and his subordinates must be desperados. I want to get in touch with him. Li Changsheng directly said to the boss. The man named Peng Xian had a hesitant look on his face and kindly reminded him, dealing with such a person is dangerous. Li Changsheng just smiled, indicating that it was fine. Peng Xian thought that Li Changsheng had the sick tiger Qiyu as his backer and understood the source of Li Changsheng's confidence. So he looked for the other party to arrange a time to meet. Li Changsheng was quite satisfied with Peng Xian's performance. He specifically told Shen Weidong to cooperate with him more in Ning City's business. This also made Peng Xian feel greatly encouraged and even more grateful to Li Changsheng. Chapter 378. On the second day, after Peng Xian left Qingzhou and returned to Peace City, he called. He said that he had already made an appointment with the other party. Over the years, the rumors were getting more and more intense, and the other party's weapons business was also at risk of losing their heads. Now that he heard that Li Changsheng was interested in Jade, and Peng Xian told him how much power Li Changsheng had in Peace City, the other party was also very eager to cooperate with Li Changsheng. However, the other party did not know that Li Changsheng was not going to do an ordinary jade business with him. This time, he had specially chosen a few pieces of high-quality jade, but they were destined to be unworthy of Li Changsheng's attention. The meeting location with the big boss from the border was a high-end clubhouse in Qingzhou. It just so happened that the other party was passing by Qingzhou on his way to the north, so they could meet so quickly. Li Changsheng and Peng Xian arrived first. When they went in to wait, the door was suddenly pushed open violently, and a group of people rushed in. They were all in black suits and black sunglasses. There were about a dozen of them, and they had a strong aura. It made the originally spacious room feel a little crowded. The last to enter was the big boss, who was wearing a black mink fur and a big gold chain, looking very much like a nouveau riche. However, the other party's aura was very strong, and the moment he entered, he gave people a feeling of a tiger coming out of the mountains. However, thinking about it, these people were all in the business of losing their heads and live a life of blood on the edge of a knife. They were really people who had blood on their hands. The other party was in his 40s, and he introduced himself as Ing Yu. Like his name, he had a hooked nose and a sharp face, giving people the first impression that he was not a kind person. Especially his pair of red phoenix eyes, which were long and narrow, flashing with a cold light. Ing Yu strode into the room. At this moment, this place seemed to have become his home ground. He took off the black mink fur and threw it aside. He sat down directly opposite Li Changsheng. He first greeted Peng Xian. "President Peng, you're quite early." As he spoke, his gaze swept over Li Changsheng's face, and he asked doubtfully, "This is?" It was because Li Changsheng was too young. It was hard to believe that this young and ordinary-looking man was the big shot who controlled the economic power of Ning City, as mentioned by Peng Xian. Li Changsheng could clearly see the arrogance and disdain in the other party's eyes. After all, people like him who live with their heads on their belts look down on rich second-generation heirs who relied on their family backgrounds. Obviously, Li Changsheng was categorized as a second-generation rich kid by him. To be able to make Peng Xian and the others call him boss at the age of 20, in his opinion, he could only do so by relying on the shade of his family. After greeting Peng Xian, Ing Yu directly put his legs on the tea table, not intending to get to know Li Changsheng. His casual movements made Peng Xian, who was standing next to him, smile bitterly. He and Ing Yu had only met a few times. Because he was looking for herbs for Li Changsheng, he was introduced by a friend. Although they had not known each other for long, he had heard a lot about Ing Yu's deeds. However, this was not the border after all. Li Changsheng was the #1 figure in Ning City. The other party looked down on him, which was indirectly equivalent to not giving Peng Xian face. However, he saw a few strong men in black standing neatly behind the other party, and a slightly bulging spear-shaped object in the other party's pocket. So he had to suppress the dissatisfaction in his heart. These fugitives might dare to take your life if you can't negotiate with them. In front of such a person, even Peng Xian, who was a figure in the business world, was innately inferior. "I heard that you're more interested in jade." President Peng said that you have a lot of power. "I don't know, and I don't want no more. I can bring you the best quality jade, as long as you can afford it." The other party waved his hand, and a subordinate next to him took out a stack of newspapers from his bag. When a newspaper was opened, it was a piece of green raw jade stone. "How is it? The quality is good, right? I could get a lot of raw jade stones of this quality. The price is 1/3 lower than the domestic price. But to show your sincerity, I will get the goods for you. You have to pay me a 30% deposit in advance, and there is no return." After the other party finished, he found a cigar and took a few puffs, quietly looking at Li Changsheng. Li Changsheng shook his head. "What deposit? If you can't return it, Let's talk about it in the future. This raw jade stone is not what I want. What I want is the stones that you gave to President Peng. I want the exact same ones. And Yu was stunned. The stones he gave Peng Xin last time were only mid-grade jade stones. This time, he deliberately chose a piece of imperial green jade to suppress Li Changsheng. He did not expect that Li Changsheng would not want it. Are you kidding me? And you stare at Li Changsheng. He gave his stones to Peng Xin last time as a gift. Li Changsheng did not want to do the valuable jade business and wanted that kind of stone. Was this a joke? No, I'm not kidding. You can't sell the stones last time at a high price, and I'll give you the value of this jade. What? This time, not to mentioning you, even the faces of the strong men behind him were slightly moved. In their eyes, it was inconceivable and incomprehensible to spend the money of the best jade to buy inferior jade stones. Li Changsheng picked up the tea in front of him and took a sip, quietly waiting for Yu's reply. Spirit stones were a supreme treasure for cultivators, but for ordinary people, they were useless dregs. It seemed that the other party had no reason to refuse to exchange a cheap thing for great wealth. Yu rolled his eyes a few times. After making sure that Li Changsheng was not joking, he fell into deep thought. No one would spend money to buy garbage. If someone did, it could only mean that the garbage had unknown value. The stones last time were dug out from a stone mine, and there were many such stones underground. If each stone could be sold for the value of jade, the money he could get from the stone mine alone was more than he could spend in several lifetimes. From then on, he would no longer have to live a life of blood on the knife's edge. He could live the rest of his life comfortably with his brothers. After Li Changsheng threw out such a price, he also thought that the other party could not refuse. It was just that he underestimated the greed of human nature. And Yu put the cigar on the table, put his hands on the table, and leaned forward to look at Li Changsheng. That kind of stone is a treasure. How can the price of jade be acceptable? A piece the size of a fist is 3 million. I gave Boss Peng 3 pieces last time. You can pay me 10 million in advance. The other party said. Peng Xin, who was next to him, almost slammed the table and stood up. A piece of stone the size of a fist was sold for 3 million. In his opinion, the other party was simply robbing him. Last time, he had already said that he would give the stone to him. This time, he asked for 10 million, which was really too much. Chapter 379. Li Changsheng, on the other hand, had a playful look in his eyes. When Yu was deep in thought just now, he already knew that something was wrong and knew that the other party was greedy. How about this? Tell me the location of the jade mine, and I'll give you this amount. Li Changsheng raised a finger. 100 million? The other party frowned. No, 100 billion. In Li Changsheng's opinion, no matter how greedy the other party was, such a huge sum of money was enough to satisfy him. If there was really a spirit stone mine, Li Changsheng would be willing to pay 100 billion. The other party was indeed shocked by Li Changsheng's number. For someone like him, it was quite good to be able to get 10 million after spending half of his life. 100 billion was unimaginable. Huh, little brother, you really know how to joke. There's no spirit stone mine. That was all nonsense just now. I still have something to do, so I'll leave first. Let's talk next time. With that, he turned around and was about to leave. Li Changsheng was stunned. The other party knew the value of the spirit stone and did not intend to sell it to him. Aren't you burning the bridge after crossing the river? No matter how good-tempered Li Changsheng was, there was a hint of coldness in his eyes at this moment. The other party's greed was simply to the point of shamelessness. What did you say? Yu, who was already walking away, suddenly stopped and stared coldly at Li Changsheng. Young man, you'd better think before you speak. Otherwise, you won't even know how you died. Li Changsheng knew that the other party was talking tough. Yu was in the business of licking blood from the edge of a knife. It was not an exaggeration to say that this kind of person had no regard for human life. His hands were often stained with blood. Even if he was in Li Changsheng's territory in Qingzhou, he still dared to attack. Because even if he committed a murder, he could still leave at any time. If you know what's good for you, Then shut up and don't mention the jade. You go your way, and I'll go mine. If you don't know what's good for you, I'll take your life. Ingyu laughed. Director Lee, since you're so generous, I'm also very willing to be friends with you. However, you should be more careful with your words in the future. You have to think about what you should say and what you shouldn't say. Otherwise, you'll be at a disadvantage. Seeing that Li Changsheng did not speak, and you could not help but sneer. From his point of view, Li Changsheng was still a brat who was still wet behind the ears. If it weren't for the fact that Peng Xin still had some reputation in the north and had some connections, he wouldn't have said so much nonsense. Looks like this guy doesn't even put me in his eyes. Li Changsheng tapped his fingers on the table. Going back on one's words is a common occurrence for this kind of person. But I'm the same as well. I actually tried to reason with a commoner. That's no different from playing the lute to a cow. The other party was doing business at the border. Li Changsheng wondered if the other party would still dare to act so confidently if he brought out Gu Mangong, who dominated the entire southern region. However, after thinking about it, Li Changsheng dismissed the idea. He could easily deal with a small ant. Did he need someone else's help? Therefore, he shook his head and said, I hope you can consider the matter of the spirit stones carefully. If you think the price is too low, I can give you a little more. However, if you really want to burn the bridge after crossing the river, then we'll have to talk about it properly. Ingyu's face immediately darkened. Peng Xin, who was beside him, clenched his fists nervously. His palms were full of sweat. For someone like Ingyu, once he turned hostile, there might be blood. Friend, looks like you don't take my warning to heart. Ingyu's voice was filled with threat. Li Changsheng curled his lips. You don't have to threaten me. This is Qingzhou. Maybe you don't know my strength, but Director Peng should have revealed some information about me to you. Not to mention that your subordinates can't touch a single hair on my body. Even if you really hurt me, do you really think you can walk out of Qingzhou alive? Li Changsheng's words made Ingyu's expression change. Ingyu had been in the underworld for more than 10 years and had seen all kinds of people. However, Li Changsheng, who looked ordinary at the moment, had an unfathomable look on his face. He did not know if Li Changsheng was pretending or if he had nothing to fear. However, he really did not dare to make a move at this moment. Although these people were desperados, daring to risk their lives did not mean that they did not cherish their lives. Brother, it's not that I don't want to tell you, but there really isn't any mineral vein. Ingyu laughed out loud. He reached out and patted Li Changsheng's shoulder. Then, he turned around and walked out of the room with his subordinates. He did not look back from the beginning to the end. However, Li Changsheng noticed that the bodyguards walked out of the room backward. This showed that they were afraid of Li Changsheng. Peng Xin only breathed a sigh of relief when the other party completely closed the door. He wiped the cold sweat on his head. In a situation just now, he was afraid that the other party would get angry and directly give him a bullet. Mr. Li, you took too much of a risk just now. These people are desperados. It's okay. Li Changsheng smiled. A cold light flashed in his eyes. Just now, he had left a sensing talisman on the other party. As long as the other party returned to the border, Li Changsheng would know the specific location of the spirit stone vein. Here is 1 million. Consider it as a reward for bringing you this information. Li Changsheng pushed a bank card in front of Peng Xin. Also, you will go to the border with me in a few days. This, Peng Xin hesitated. Ingyu had just left, and Li Changsheng wanted to go to the border. Even a fool would know that Li Changsheng was still thinking about the stone. Although Peng Xin did not know what the stone was used for, it was definitely very important to Li Changsheng. After thinking about it, he finally nodded. Okay, I'll go with you. Peng Xin knew that it would be very dangerous to go to the border with Li Changsheng, but he was just running a medium-sized company in Ning City. With Li Changsheng's power, if he could gain Li Changsheng's trust, it would be very beneficial for him. Wealth comes from danger, so he agreed immediately. Okay, you should prepare first. When we leave, I will inform you. Okay. Peng Xin nodded and was about to leave. But after thinking about it, he said, Mr. Li, are you planning to go to the border and find a way to buy the stone mine from Ingyu? I'm afraid that Yu will set the price to a very terrifying level. Such a person is very greedy. I do plan to find a stone mine, but I don't plan to buy it. I want to take it directly from Yu. I've already given him a price. If he doesn't agree, then I can only use another method. Lighting a cigarette, Li Chongqing took a puff and said faintly. The smile on Peng Xian's face instantly froze. He stared at Li Chongqing in a daze. Yu was already so arrogant in Qingzhou. If he returned to his territory, he would be like a tiger in the deep mountains. His power would be ridiculously strong. Li Chongqing actually had such an idea. It was simply too terrifying. He began to regret agreeing to Li Chongqing's request just now. But at this moment, looking at Li Chongqing's half-smiling eyes, he opened his mouth and finally sighed. He knew that if he went back on his words now, he might offend Li Chongqing. Forget it, there's still a knife in the end. It's better to do it with a bang. Seeing the change in Peng Xian's eyes, Li Chongqing nodded slightly and thought, he can be considered a moldable talent. Chapter 380. Life during the holidays was a little monotonous. Li Chongqing stayed in the villa to cultivate every day. Occasionally, he would receive a call from Rin Juntang from the Junka group. Li Chongqing usually let him make the decision himself. The Shinnong group, which was jointly founded by Zhu Dapeng and the others from the Medicine King Valley, was also on the right track. These days, they sent Li Chongqing a lot of good herbs. Besides cultivating every day, Li Chongqing sometimes went shopping with Yu Wei. Recently, Yu Wei was working part-time to buy a ring for Li Chongqing with the salary she earned from her part-time job. Originally, Li Chongqing wanted to give Yu Wei a sum of money so that she could study in peace. However, Yu Wei insisted. Yu Wei always seemed to mind spending Li Chongqing's money. Generally speaking, she would shake her head and refuse whatever Li Chongqing wanted to buy for her. Li Chongqing was also helpless about this. He could understand Yu Wei's persistence. Perhaps only when she became his wife would she be able to accept everything from him with a clear conscience. Li Chongqing didn't know what Yu Wei's life would be like if he didn't intervene. But now, she was pure and cute, and her persistence had undoubtedly moved Li Chongqing. Yu Wei worked part-time for more than 10 days. After buying the ring for Li Chongqing, she stopped working part-time and enjoyed the leisure time during the holidays. Gradually, he began to contact Li Chongqing more often. Sometimes, she would suddenly appear in front of Li Chongqing's villa in the morning. Sometimes, she would call Li Chongqing and ask him to pick her up. Life seemed to become better in this leisure time. Yu Wei said that she was going to take the driving test with a few classmates and asked Li Chongqing to go with her. He looked at the dusty Rolls-Royce parked in the villa's courtyard. In the end, Li Chongqing couldn't resist Yu Wei's coaxing and pestering, so he could only nod and agree. When they arrived at the driving school, they saw Yu Wei's 2 classmates. One of them was called by Chong. She was a round-faced girl. The other one was called Wang Nan. She had a ponytail. Yu Wei introduced them to her and said that they were her close friends from school. There were also 2 boys. One of them was tall and thin. His name was Jiang Yuan Bao, and the other was a little fatty named Sung Pan. These 2 were by Chong and Wang Nan's boyfriends. She was also in the same class as Yu Wei. The driving schools in Qingzhou all used Volkswagen Boreis, and each car could usually carry 3 students. Including Li Chongqing, there were 6 people in total, which was just enough for 2 training vehicles. Subject 1 was a piece of cake for everyone. They passed the exam in one go. When they practiced the second subject, they were all in the same area. The coach was a bald, middle-aged man. He held a stainless steel teacup in his hand and was giving Yu Wei pointers. Yu Wei was a little nervous because it was her first time interacting with him. Her palms were sweaty. Take a break. Drink some hot water. Don't be nervous. When Yu Wei got out of the car, Li Chongqing took the initiative to pass her the hot water. Okay. Yu Wei smiled sweetly. The coach and the 2 boys beside her were dazed for a moment. In comparison, Wang Nan and Bai Chong were not bad looking. However, when they stood next to Yu Wei, they paled in comparison. Just as she opened the cup, a car suddenly sped over and braked. Smoke and dust filled the air. Some small stones even jumped into the cup. The hot water splashed out and splashed on Yu Yue's hand. Yu Yue panicked, and the cup fell to the ground. At this moment, the window of the car rolled down, revealing the face of a man with long hair and a handsome face. He whistled at Yu Yue. "Beauty, it's so cold today. Do you want me to treat you to a cup of coffee later?" Yu Yue looked at the cup that had fallen to the ground with an icy expression on her pretty face. She was about to say something, but the other party had already driven away. The boy beside her was a little angry. He muttered, "What kind of person is he? He has no manners at all." The girl named Bai Chong looked at the coach. "Coach, this is too much. Where's the coach in their car? How can he just let them mess around in the training ground?" The bald coach, Zhang Wei, was in his 40s. He had a good impression of Li Changsheng and the others. A group of young people were polite. His children were also around the same age, so it was inevitable that he would feel closer to them. Zhang Wei smiled bitterly. "Our coach doesn't dare to control them. The guy who drove the car just now is related to the leader of our driving school. His companions also have a strong background." In the beginning, his coach said a few words to him. In the end, that coach was slapped on the spot. In the end, the coach was even reprimanded by the higher-ups. Later on, they changed their coach. Everyone has learned their lesson. Let them mess around. Anyway, they will leave after getting their driver's license. There's no need to provoke this group of people. Hearing the coach's words, Bai Chong and the others stopped talking. They came from ordinary families. Since the other party had a strong background, and even the coach couldn't do anything about it, they could only endure it. Only Li Changxing frowned. "Isn't it just a background? The next time he provokes Yu Yue, he will have to bear the consequences." Coach Zhang Wei only took it as Li Changxing's angry words. He smiled and didn't say anything. Bai Chong and the others at the side also agreed angrily. "That's right. He hasn't met anyone strong. If he met someone with a stronger background, who knows how he will be dealt with? These people are asking for it." Chapter 381. It was winter, and all the scenery was gray. Yu Yue sat in the car and practiced. Sung Pan and Jiang Yuanbao, the two male students, and Li Changxing squatted in a row, smoking in boredom. The weather wasn't cold yet, and it wasn't time to shiver from the cold. "Li Changsheng, how did you get Yu Yue? I heard that you did a question in front of their form teacher and shocked all the teachers. Is that true?" Jiang Yuanbao and Seng Pan were curious about Li Changsheng. An ordinary-looking guy suddenly captured the most beautiful goddess of Green Vine High School. Such a story easily aroused people's interest. "Looks like you're a top student." Seng Pan gave him a thumbs up. The two coaches who were smoking also looked at Li Changsheng in surprise. They suddenly understood how a girl like Yu Yue fell in love with him. It turned out that she relied on her learning ability. Therefore, they both sighed in their hearts. Even if God didn't give him a good body, wisdom could make up for it all. Li Changxing chatted with them. They were familiar with each other after a few days of learning. At this time, the phone suddenly rang. It was Qi Xian. "Mr. Li, I heard that you're going to the border. Can you bring me along?" After thinking for a while, he knew that Qi Xian must have gotten the news from Peng Xian. Peng Xian was just a small boss in Ning City, and now the entire city was under the control of the Qi family. "Sure, I'll let you know in advance." Li Changxing didn't have any bad feelings about Qi Xian. He was willing to give more pointers to the son of an old friend. After practicing parking and reversing for a few days, even the patient Yu Yue and the other girls felt a little bored. Sung Pan, who was quite familiar with driving, suggested that they practice on the road outside the driving school. Originally, this was a project that only the third subject would do, but the two coaches had a good relationship with Li Changsheng and the others, so they finally nodded and agreed. The driving school had its own special road for driving practice. When they left the driving school, Jiang Yuanbao and Sung Pan would drive. Girls were more timid than boys to begin with, but when they left the driving school and arrived at an empty road with no one around, the girls couldn't resist the novelty. Bai Chong drove the training car behind, while Yu Yue drove Li Changxing's car. However, just as Yu Yue took the first step, she heard a violent roar. A coach car rushed over as fast as lightning. When he overtook Yu Yue's car, he slammed on the brakes. Yu Yue was so scared that he hurriedly stepped on the accelerator as hard as he could, making a loud roar. Fortunately, the coach stepped on the brakes in time, and the car turned off. However, the coach's face was deathly pale. Yu Yue let out a cry of surprise, and her body uncontrollably crashed into the steering wheel in front of her. When he raised his head, there was already blood flowing out of his nose. Her eyes were filled with tears. She was afraid that she would get blood on the car. He opened the door and got out of the car. "Are you okay?" Li Changsheng hurriedly handed her a tissue. Bai Chong and the other girls also got out of the car. Yu Yue waved her hand. "It's just a bruise on my nose." Li Changsheng calmed down. He took a glass of water from the car and asked Bai Chong to help clean the blood on Yu Yue's face. Then he raised his head and looked forward. The culprit of all this was the coach car. The window was rolled down. The driver made a provocative gesture at Li Changsheng, then stepped on the accelerator and sped away, leaving behind a cloud of dust. The two boys were very indignant. They scolded the person in front of them for being unethical. The two coaches just smiled bitterly. They naturally recognized that the driver was the young man who had a relationship with the leader of the driving school. Li Changsheng didn't say anything, but a trace of coldness flashed in his eyes. Everyone helped Yu Yue stop the nosebleed and got into the car. This time, the coaches didn't dare to let Yu Yue and the others practice driving on the road. They directly drove to the driving school. After driving for a short distance, they saw a coach car parked in front of them. Three young men were leaning against the car and smoking. The coach in charge of teaching them was sitting on the curb and drinking hot water. The coaches want to go around them in order not to provoke them. However, they saw the young man who was driving the car flicking the butt of his half-smoked cigarette. It just happened to bounce through the window and into their car. Li Changsheng, who was sitting in the front passenger seat, suddenly stepped on the brakes. Everyone in the car leaned forward due to inertia. Coach Zhang Wei didn't expect Li Changsheng to do this. He looked a little unhappy. Just as he was about to question him, he saw Li Changsheng open the door and get out of the car. "Hey kid, do you want to fight?" The guy with long hair compared his height with Li Changsheng's and had a look of disdain on his face. In the car, Wang Min hurriedly said to Yu Yue when she saw that a conflict was about to break out. "Yu Yue, go and persuade your boyfriend. We can't afford to offend those people." Unexpectedly, Yu Yue was indifferent. Once Li Changsheng decided on something, she would never stop him. Moreover, how could the children of the driving school's leaders be more powerful than Li Changsheng's background? The other coach's car also stopped. Jiang Yuanbao and Tseng Pan hurriedly ran over and stopped Li Changsheng. "Changsheng, don't be rash. We can't afford to offend these people." The long-haired young man had a playful look on his face. His two companions were still leaning against the car and smoking. They didn't seem to care about Li Changsheng at all. Li Changsheng originally wanted to teach this guy a lesson. However, his arms were held back by Yu Yue's two classmates. He couldn't just shake them off with brute force. The long-haired young man made a gesture of disdain at Li Changsheng. Then, he gestured to his companions and arrogantly got into the car. Their coach forced a smile and walked over. He whispered, "Kid, just bear with it. They have a powerful background. It's not worth it to argue with them." After saying that, he got into the coach's car. Jiang Yuanbao and Tseng Pan only let go of Li Changsheng when the other party's car drove away. Li Changsheng didn't say anything and sat back in the coach's car. Coach Zhang Wei shook his head and said, "Kid, you're too impulsive. That's not good." Bai Chong and Zhang Wei also echoed, "That's right, Li Changsheng. Impulsiveness is the devil. You must restrain yourself." Fortunately, Jiang Yuanbao and Tseng Pan pulled you back. Otherwise, how could you beat them with your small physique? What's more, who do you think they are? Even if you beat them, you don't know how many things will happen later. None of these people are easy to deal with. Changsheng, I'm fine. Don't be angry. You don't have to bother with these **TTY people." Yu Yue also said. She knew how powerful Li Changsheng was, but she didn't want Li Changsheng to fight with others because of her. Chapter 382. Although, when learning to drive, it was inevitable that there would be a lot of small incidents. For example, the people who provoked him twice and thrice were said to be young men with backgrounds. Another example was the two girls. Sometimes they would joke that Li Changsheng was a pile of cow dung, but he was favored by Yu Wei. But no matter what, rather than learning to drive, it was better to say that Li Changsheng was spending some beautiful memories with his girlfriend. Sometimes Yu Wei would say to herself, "When will I have a car to drive?" Every time this happened, Li Changsheng would say that he could give her his Rolls-Royce at any time. Bai Chang and the other girls rolled their eyes at him. They said that Li Changsheng was bragging without a draft and dared to say anything. In response, Li Changsheng only smiled and did not explain further. Time passed quickly. In the morning, Jiang Tao called Li Changsheng and said that he was preparing to go for an internship next semester. This made Li Changsheng quite surprised. Why did Jiang Tao, a rich second generation, suddenly not go out to play and instead think of doing serious business? In the end, Zhang Xiaofeng and Yang Fan did not choose to go to Li Changsheng's company. Instead, they went to look for other targets. In their words, they did not want to rely on nepotism. They wanted to rely on their own abilities to make a name for themselves. Wu Xiaowan came to find Li Changsheng once and said that she told the man who was chasing her that she was already taken. She also told him Li Changsheng's name. The man was very angry. He called Li Changsheng several times to arrange a fight. It was said that the other party was a taekwondo coach. Wu Xiaowan said, as if she was crying and complaining, "Li Changsheng has to be responsible for her." This made Li Changsheng feel a headache. Different things happened every day. The world of mortals was surging, and the atmosphere was changing. In this winter, Li Changsheng, a cultivator who had lived for 10,000 years, was destined to gradually integrate into the circle of Qingzhou. 20 days later, Yu Wei and the others passed the exam of Subject 2 as they had wished. Now it was time for the exam of Subject 3. On the last day of training, Li Changsheng treated the two coaches, Bai Chang and the other three girls, to a meal. Perhaps the coach felt that Li Changsheng did not look like a rich man, so he chose a small restaurant with a more elegant environment. He spent more than 300 yuan on a meal and drank a lot. On the way back, Coach Zhang Wei drank a little too much and insisted on driving. Bai Chang and the other two girls educated him about the dangers of drinking and driving. Only then did he give up on driving and choose to take a taxi back. For a time, it became an interesting story between Yu Wei and the others, which was told to others. The next day, they would take the exam for Subject 3. After that, they would take the exam for Subject 4. After that, they would be able to get the book. Generally speaking, the third and fourth subjects would be taken on the same day. The examination hall for Subject 3 was divided into several areas. Li Changsheng and the others were in the third area. When they appeared, several people pointed at them and whispered. Only then did they know that they were students from Green Vine High School who had also come to take the driving test. As the campus belle of Green Vine High School, Yu Wei was definitely a well-known figure. A few girls came over to greet Yu Wei and the others. Obviously, they had a good relationship in school. When they looked at Li Changsheng, they could not help but be a little more curious. One of them, who was in the same class as Yu Wei and the others, suddenly realized after thinking for a long time, "Isn't this the hero who solved the questions at the door of the classroom at lightning speed?" For a moment, he attracted a lot of attention. Obviously, many people had not heard of Li Changsheng, but they had heard about his deeds. This made the coaches, Zhang Wei and Zhao Cheng, slightly surprised. They thought to themselves, "It seems that this Li Changsheng is indeed a top student. It's a pity that his looks are a little ordinary. Otherwise, he would be a perfect match for Yu Wei." A group of people in front walked over in a mighty manner. The leader was the long-haired young man who had almost clashed with Li Changsheng several times. They had just finished the test in the fourth area and were returning. A girl next to him muttered, "They clearly didn't wear their seat belts just now, but they passed. It's really unfair." These people had been rampaging in the school, which had already caused a lot of dissatisfaction. He had become a celebrity in a way that was not very good. Naturally, He had attracted a lot of attention. I heard that the other party's surname is Sue. One of the directors of the driving school is his uncle. He came to the driving school purely to play. Some people said that even if he didn't take the test, he could easily get a driver's license. There were always many unfair things in the world, and there were many unspoken rules. It was no longer a secret. People were powerless to change him and could only complain and complain. Li Changxing's phone rang. Qi Xian had already driven to Qingzhou. Chu Yaotian sent his son, Chu Xing, to receive him. Back then, whether it was the sickly tiger Qi Yu or Chu Yaotian, they were all Li Changxing's followers. Chu Yaotian wasn't as powerful as Qi Yu, but their relationship back then was still pretty good. Li Changxing told them that he was about to take the test and would meet them after the test. Chu Xing immediately said that he would personally drive over to pick Li Changxing up. Li Changxing didn't refuse. Yu Yue asked Li Changxing whose phone number it was. Chapter 383. Bai Chong was the first to go up. She was a little nervous, but she managed to pass the exam. Her legs were trembling when she got off the car. Wang Nan, Jiang Yuanbao, and Sung Pan all passed the exam. Everyone heaved a sigh of relief. They had all seen the long-haired young man with the surname Su whispering to the examiner. Their hearts were finally at ease. Next was Yu Yue. Like Bai Chong, she was a little nervous. Fortunately, the car didn't turn off. After circling around the simulated road, the examiner asked Yu Yue to stop the car. He shook his head and said, "You didn't pass." Yu Yue, who had heaved a sigh of relief, was stunned. "What's going on?" Bai Chong, who had the most explosive temper, couldn't help but ask loudly. She was very disciplined. "I said she didn't pass, so she didn't pass. If you have any objections, even your results will be invalid." The examiner's voice was cold. Everyone suddenly understood. Next, the examiner pointed at Li Changxing. Li Changxing walked directly to Yu Yue and comforted Yu Yue. Then, he turned his cold eyes and looked at the examiner. "You abuse your power like this. Do you think no one can stop you?" "Huh?" The examiner sneered. "Why? Do you want to make a decision for her? If you don't want to take the exam, then get in the car. If you don't want to take the exam, then get out of the way. Don't delay the other students' exams. You're just a young boy. Why don't you take a look at yourself?" The examiner was fearless. He didn't care about Li Changxing's threat at all. "You'd better clean your mouth and apologize to my girlfriend. Give her a fair result. Otherwise, today's matter won't end so easily." Li Changxing's voice was very cold. Yu Yue was his girlfriend. How could he let others bully her? "Huh? Who do you think you are?" The middle-aged man narrowed his eyes. His face was gloomy. He was about 1.8 meters tall, so he didn't take Li Changxing seriously. If it wasn't for today's occasion, he would have already wanted to teach this reckless brat a lesson. Seeing this situation, Coach Zhang Wei smiled bitterly and went up to say a few good words. But just as he approached, he was pushed aside by the examiner. Many people around looked over curiously. The long-haired young man surnamed Su had a smug look on his face. Zhang Wei said to Li Changxing as he walked back dejectedly, "Young man, you're too impulsive. Originally, even if Yu Yue failed once, you still have a second chance. But after talking back to him, you probably won't be able to pass the next time. Why bother?" At the side, Bai Chong took out 500 yuan from his bag and pushed it to Coach Zhang Wei. "Coach Zhang, why don't you go over and put in a good word for me? Otherwise, I'll have to relearn." Zhang Wei nodded his head and walked over. However, before he could take out the money, it was knocked down by the other party. "What are you doing? You want me to make a mistake? Don't try this on me. Isn't that brat very arrogant? Tell him to come find me if he has any connections. Let's see who's better in this driving school." Zhang Wei could only smile bitterly and walk back. He returned the money to Bai Chong and shook his head. "He's in a fit of anger now. Wait for him to cool down before you go over and apologize to him." Hearing Zhang Wei's words, Bai Chong and the others looked at Li Changxing. Li Changxing wasn't in the wrong, but he had to apologize to him. In their opinion, this was very unfair. However, if he didn't apologize, he wouldn't be able to get a driving license. Changsheng, why don't you just give in? There's no need to be angry. Bai Chang advised. Yeah, this is a driving school. It's their territory. Otherwise, you would have paid the tuition fees for nothing and wasted so much time. Wang Nan also advised. There's no need to apologize. I'll make him come over and apologize to Yu Wei and me. After saying that, Li Changxing took out his phone. Hello, Chu Yaotian. Do you know the Longting driving school in the west of the city? Yes. Help me deal with someone. Li Changxing knew that Qingzhou was the world of the Chu family. There was nothing that the Chu family couldn't handle. Sure enough, after receiving Li Changxing's call, Chu Yaotian immediately patted his chest and promised that he would give Li Changxing 3 minutes. After hanging up the phone, the coach, Bai Chang, and the others looked at Li Changsheng with their mouths agape. Especially the coaches, Zhang Wei and Zhao Chun. This average-looking young man has quite a big mouth. I don't know who he called. It's just that the examiner just now has an extraordinary background. How could an ordinary person deal with him? Bai Chang and the others also felt that Li Changsheng was a little pretentious. He probably made this call to save his face. Hence, he didn't say anything. However, his eyes clearly showed that he didn't believe him. On the other side, when the examiner saw Li Changsheng making a call, he shouted, Kid, why are you looking for someone to mess with me? Bring it on. I'd like to see what kind of power you have. However, just as he finished speaking, a middle-aged fat man in a suit ran over, panting. In the cold winter, his face was covered in sweat. However, he didn't bother to wipe it off. The moment the middle-aged fat man appeared, the 2 coaches, including the examiner, were shocked. This middle-aged fat man's identity wasn't simple. He was the principal of this driving school. Principal Yang, why are you here? The examiner didn't realize anything for a moment and took the initiative to welcome him. Principal Yang waved his hand and gave him a slap on the face. Slap. His voice was crisp and clear, causing the examiner to be stunned. It wasn't just the examiner. Even the 2 coaches, Zhang Wei, Zhao Chun, and the surrounding students were dumbfounded. Principal Yang looked over with a terrified expression and said, Which one of you is Mr. Li Changsheng? I am, Li Changxing said calmly. Principal Yang hurriedly squeezed out a flattering smile. Mr. Li, it's my fault. There's such a scum in the driving school. I'll deal with him immediately. When the examiner saw this, no matter how stupid he was, he understood what was going on. He wiped the cold sweat on his head and ran over to apologize. Student, it's my fault. I apologize to you. Just now, your girlfriend completely passed the test. After saying that, he crossed out the original cross on the notebook and drew a check mark. However, Li Changsheng shook his head. Principal Yang glared at the examiner and said coldly, You're expelled. Then, he bowed and looked at Li Changsheng. Mr. Li, I'll get someone to send your driver's license to you tomorrow. Okay. Then, he pointed at the long-haired young man who was waiting to watch the show. However, he was already stunned. I heard that his uncle is the director of your school. Principal Yang immediately understood Li Changxing's meaning. Don't worry, he's not anymore. Chapter 384. When the long-haired young man heard Principal Yang's words, he staggered and almost fell to the ground. Because of his arrogance, his uncle was harmed by him. Just as everyone was stunned by the news brought by Li Changsheng and couldn't digest it, a few Bentley cars stopped at the entrance. A few Bentleys stopped at the edge of the examination hall, and Qi Xian walked up quickly. When Li Changsheng said goodbye to Bai Chang and the others and got into the Bentley and drove away, the people present finally reacted. They were all overwhelmed with emotions. Even the slowest person would know the power behind Li Changsheng. Yu Wei didn't leave with Li Changsheng because she had promised to celebrate with Bai Chang and the rest. At this moment, countless eyes were on him. In the past, everyone thought that Li Changsheng and Yu Wei were like flowers stuck in cow dung. But now, they suddenly understood that Yu Wei was the one who had picked up a treasure. You really can't judge a book by its cover. Coach Zhang Wei sighed. At this moment, a middle-aged man wearing gold-rimmed glasses walked down hurriedly. After knowing the whole story, he went over and gave the long-haired young man 2 slaps. He was the director of the long-haired young man's uncle. After punishing him, the young man went over to plead with Principal Yang. Unexpectedly, Principal Yang shook his head and whispered a name in his ear. The director was dumbfounded on the spot, and he was filled with despair. Li Changsheng, I haven't had the chance to thank you for what you did last time. Let me toast you first. At the banquet, Chu Ming raised her wine glass. When Qi Xian came to Qingzhou, Chu Yaotian held a banquet to welcome him. Li Changsheng naturally sat at the main seat. As Chu Yaotian's granddaughter, Chu Ming was now Li Changsheng's classmate in the same school. She was mainly responsible for accompanying Li Changsheng. In fact, Chu Yaotian might have some selfish motives. His granddaughter was a beauty. If she could become someone with Li Changsheng, he would be happy to see it happen. Chu Ming was referring to the kidnapping of Chu Yaotian by Qin Hao and his son. Li Changsheng smiled and said, "It's just a small matter." After the banquet, Chu Ming's face was slightly red. Qi Xian wasn't familiar with Chu Xing at first, but alcohol was the best concoction between men. After a few glasses of wine, their relationship quickly warmed up. One was in his 40s, while the other was in his 20s. They put their arms around each other's shoulders and called each other brothers. However, with the relationship between Chu Yaotian and Qi Yu, the two of them could be considered to be of the same generation. Chu Yaotian used the excuse that he was old and only took a sip every time he drank. However, he kept encouraging his granddaughter to propose a toast to Li Changsheng. Chu Ming's face turned red, and her eyes became more and more unfocused. "Mr. Li, what do you think of my granddaughter?" Chu Yaotian suddenly said with a chuckle. "Very good." Li Changsheng couldn't react for a moment. Chu Ming was beautiful, and she even went to help him at the banquet with Shin Donghai. "Since she's very good, then I'll be so bold as to suggest that the two of you drink cross-cupped wine to improve your relationship." "Cross-cupped wine?" Li Changsheng's face froze. Chu Ming's face was red to the tips of her ears. "There's no need." Li Changsheng reacted and shook his head. Chu Ming glared at Li Changsheng, then found an excuse to leave the table. When she returned, her eyes were a little red. However, the atmosphere at the table became a lot more strange. To be honest, Chu Ming herself didn't know how she felt about Li Changsheng. Chu Ming had never been in a relationship since she was young, so she didn't know much about relationships. When she first met Li Changsheng, she didn't have a good impression of Li Changsheng. However, after Chu Yaotian's kidnapping, her impression of him gradually changed. Later on, during the confrontation with Shan Donghai, she took the initiative to help Li Changsheng. All these changes in his mind were carried out silently. However, when Chu Yaotian suddenly exposed this relationship, Chu Ming panicked and was caught off guard. Li Changsheng walked to the villa's balcony and opened the window slightly, letting in some cold wind. Just now, Yu Wei sent him a message, saying that she hoped that Li Changsheng could come to her house during the new year. It wasn't until now that Li Changsheng suddenly realized that it was almost the end of the year. After replying to Yu Wei's message, he put his phone back in his pocket and smelled a faint fragrance. When he looked up, he saw a set of pajamas fluttering in the wind from the window. Just as he was about to turn and leave, he saw a figure barge in. Chu Ming drank a bit too much today, so she went to the balcony to get some fresh air. However, the first thing she saw was Li Changsheng staring at the pajamas fluttering in the wind. Chu Ming immediately became angry. "What are you looking at? Did you come here just to peek?" Li Changsheng almost stumbled and fell to the ground. He just went to the balcony to get some fresh air and accidentally saw the pink pajamas. Who would have thought that this scene would be seen by Chu Ming and misunderstood? He hurriedly waved his hand. "You misunderstood. I just came here to get some fresh air." However, Chu Ming suddenly covered her mouth and chuckled. "I'm just teasing you. I didn't think that you would actually panic. I thought that you would always be calm in the face of change." Chu Ming blinked her big, watery eyes. Her next words almost made Li Changsheng choke on his saliva. But if my grandpa and the others knew that their respected Mr. Li came here to peek at a girl's pajamas, I wonder what they would think. As she spoke, she turned around and made a gesture of shouting. Li Changxing's face darkened. He knew that even if Chu Meng really did do that, Chu Yaotian wouldn't be angry. Instead, he would be happy to see it happen. However, he couldn't let his reputation in this life be ruined like this. He hurriedly grabbed her arm and covered her mouth with his other hand. Chu Meng's soft body fell into his arms in an instant. Because the two of them weren't wearing much in the room, the warmth of their skin could be clearly felt through their clothes. Chu Meng's delicate body stiffened. At that moment, footsteps sounded. Where's Mr. Li? He was here just now. Meng is gone. Chu Yaotian's somewhat old voice sounded. I think Mr. Li seems to have some feelings for Meng. It'd be great if they could make a good couple. The one who spoke was Chu Meng's second uncle. Chu Xing, yes, I think so too. That's why I purposely let them drink cross-cupped wine at the dinner table. The conversation between the father and son clearly fell into Li Changxing and Chu Meng's ears. The two of them went to the wine cabinet on the side to get some red wine and returned to the table. Li Changxing, who was still covering Chu Meng's soft red lips, felt even more awkward. Chu Meng's heart was also thumping. Her delicate skin was white with a hint of red and a little hot. Chapter 385. A bitter smile appeared on Li Changxing's face. In this kind of environment, he had a rare trace of nervousness in his heart. At the banquet, I saw the way Mr. Li looked at Meng was different. I think there's a chance. Meng is so beautiful. How can any man not be moved? Chu Yaotian and Chu Xing's voices continued to ring out. This, Li Changxing didn't know what to say. Chu Meng's face grew hotter and hotter. She felt the masculine aura of the man behind her, especially her small hand, which was held warm and safe. In her heart, she wondered if the two of them would be happy if they maintained this position forever. Thinking of the first time she saw Li Changxing, his face covered in dirt, and the scenes of Li Changxing after that, to be honest, Li Changxing was indeed someone worth entrusting her life to. But there was a big difference between him and the image of the Prince Charming in her countless fantasies. And just now, he refused to drink cross-cupped wine with her. What did he think of her as? We're not suitable for each other. Li Changxing, I think it's best to be friends. Chu Meng took a deep breath and pulled her hand out of Li Changxing's hand. Then, she fled in a hurry, walking into the hall. Chu Yaotian, who had just opened a bottle of wine, looked at Chu Meng in confusion. When he saw the shadowy figure standing on the balcony, he suddenly understood. Li Changxing stood alone on the balcony, the wind blowing in his clothes. Looking at Chu Meng's slender figure, to be honest, he actually had the urge to hug her tightly just now. At a certain time, in a certain environment, it was easy for people to become emotional. But with Chu Meng's departure, he also returned to reality. He laughed bitterly. I can't believe my emotions were affected by wine. The matter with Chu Meng came to an end just like that. At the banquet, the two of them fell into silence. Chu Yaotian and his son were very curious about what the two of them said on the balcony, but they didn't ask. The next day, Li Changxing, Qi Xian, and Peng Xian set off for the border. First, they took a plane across half of China. Then, they took a car to a remote town. After spending the night in the biggest hotel in town, he found a local guide and went straight into the mountains. After crossing the depths of the mountains, one could reach the border. The journey was still very far away. Along the way, Peng Xian had a worried expression. The next day, when they found a guide and headed into the mountains, he finally couldn't help but ask, Mr. Li, young Master Qi, are the three of us going directly to the border? That's too dangerous. Indeed, and he was famous for being ruthless at the border. Originally, Peng Xian thought that Li Changxing had some influence here, but along the way, he heard Li Changxing and Qi Xian's conversation. The two of them actually wanted to look for Yingyu alone. In Peng Xian's opinion, this was no different from seeking death. Of course, do we need to bring a lot of people to look for Ying Xiao? Li Changxing smiled faintly. Peng Xian was speechless. He didn't know where Li Changxing's confidence came from. He just sighed in his heart and felt a little regretful. Beside him, Qi Xian smiled but didn't say anything. If it were in the past, he wouldn't have dared to take such a risk with Li Changsheng. After all, those people at the border were not only powerful, but they were also lawless and didn't take human lives seriously. But after witnessing Li Changsheng's power, he felt confident no matter where he went. The guide they hired drove an old Mitsubishi off-road car. It was very good at off-road driving, but the car seemed a little old, especially when the car seat was full of dust. The guide explained that they had to drive guests through the primeval forest every day, so the car was never clean. They officially set off. Qi Xian took out the specific information he found on Yingyu for Li Changsheng to see. It was no wonder that Yingyu was so arrogant. He was a famous arms dealer at the border and sold all kinds of herbs, jade, and the like. He had more than 200 men under him, most of whom were outlaws. Peng Xian's worry grew heavier. Mr. Li, now you know that Yingyu isn't easy to deal with, right? In response, Li Changsheng just smiled and closed the information without saying anything. The road was smooth at first, but it became rugged and bumpy later on. Li Changsheng didn't feel much, but Peng Xian and Qi Xian beside him suffered. The bumpy road made them want to vomit. After traveling through the forest for 2 days, they suddenly stopped. Qi Xian and Peng Xian, who were sleeping soundly, were startled awake. The driver got out of the car and walked around twice before sighing. It's over. The car broke down. Can a broken car be fixed? Qi Xian asked anxiously. The other party shook his head. I'm afraid it can't be fixed for now. We have to call for backup. Hearing this, Peng Xian panicked. Doesn't that mean we have to wait here for 2 days? They had walked for 2 days to get here. If they waited for backup, they might not be able to walk the same distance in 2 days. There's no other way. The guide smiled bitterly. What should we do? Qi Xian looked at Li Changsheng. There's still a day's journey left. Why don't we walk in? Qi Xian said. Peng Xian's face turned bitter. Qi Xian had learned martial arts. Even if it was a long journey, his body could take it. But Peng Xian was different. He was the CEO of company. Even walking 500 steps was strenuous for him. The road deep in the mountains was rugged and difficult to walk on. If he walked in, he would be crippled. Li Changsheng couldn't help but frown. For the first time, he felt that bringing Peng Xian was a burden. Just as the few of them were hesitating, a rumbling sound suddenly came from behind them. A fleet of cars came out of the dense forest. There were 3 sturdy off-road vehicles. The one in the lead was obviously a modified Jeep Wrangler. The wheels were much higher than ordinary Trojan Wranglers. It was many times more advanced than the 3 off-road vehicles that Li Changsheng and the others were in. Just by looking at the way it shuttled through the dense forest, they knew that the people in the car wouldn't feel as bumpy as they did. The 2 at the back were a Kuluz and a silver Hummer. These people looked rich and noble. The vehicles rushed over with a valiant aura. They stopped at the Mitsubishi. A young man, wearing a camouflage uniform, walked down from the Wrangler. His cheeks were sharp and angular. He didn't look very handsome, but he was very masculine, giving people a feeling of walking hormones. In the front passenger seat was a woman with curly hair. She had an oval face and was very beautiful. The first impression she gave people was that she was exquisite. She walked out of the car with sunglasses. When she casually put the sunglasses on her hair, there was a soul-stirring beauty. 2 young men in their 20s and 30s walked out of the Kuluz and Hummer respectively. They were also dressed very professionally. The wristwatches on their hands and the aura they naturally exuded showed that their identities weren't ordinary. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.